Do you remember when we first met? Well, I don't, but I remember how wet you get. But I won't disrespect you by dwelling on the physical aspect. Don't roll your eyes, cause we better than that shit. I'm talking about long life, being your boy's wife. A couple youngins running in the backyard. And my lord, you're still looking great, honey. And my God, you still cause shit would make money. It's so vivid, can you picture it? Yeah, well tell me, do you think this ring fits? Word, your love is like the ultimate herb. You got me foot to the ass and the rest to the curb. It's like nothing to do, only for you I kneel and forget the brick. Love is the house we're building, the picket fence with the swing on the tree, with the words carved in it saying love is we.
There you are, close enough to touch but still too far, because you're not mine yet. Stimulated by the conversation, mere presence. Other women ask what relation, none of the essence. Oh, who's that? She's a C, but you come first, like the A before the B. When you're gone, I wilt like a willow. Lie there and smell the scent you left on my pillow. A strong mind with the body to match. I won't bite if you promise not to scratch. You keep it real, just like the truth. Closer than twins, standing in the phone booth. Inspirational, treasured like a gift. What's success without someone to share it with? I used to be a dog, now a cool cat chasing cheese. And I blame Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise.
People everywhere wants to know her name. Her body is the essence and her claim to fame. She's got game, it ain't the same. She's got plenty, packing more good times that you might call a penny. Getting caught up with the thoughts of flying overseas, making all of the cheese, spending time with Eloise. I picture hitting from the back like the snare from the track. I got the knack to be the Mac lips I wanna smack. Candle wax down the spine all of the time. Prophylactic on my tool, let me take you to school. Lesson 1, you don't have to run. And lesson 2, listen to my crew. Passion increases with exchange of saliva. Keep it Fahrenheit and call me Muff Diver. That be me, the K to the ING. My mode is excellent and my dream is Eloise.
A soft whisper. She asked me, do I have the guts to kiss her? But as I sit and wonder, is she real? I picture. So what comes after? Put on Anita's rapture. Her feelings I must capture. Her soft lips, I take them quick and put them in my pocket. Cause they're out of this world like Space Lee and his sprockets. Somebody pitch me quick, I think I'm dreaming. Damn, she got me fiending. Her skin is so soft, it reminds me of the smoothest piece of silk. She's so sweet, her breath smells like carnation milk.
So sweet. Carnation milk, of all things. I'm your lady, sweet baby. Hey, what up, boo? Words out, I'm the diva that you speak about. I hear you smitten about my well-written repertoire. You's a superstar, but it's you that I shine for. We go together like jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers. Player haters try to come between us, but never that. E is simply all of that. Rewind that. E is simply all of that. Hoes be jealous, so they fellas wanna frolic. Gems I spit can't be bought, sold or boarded. You look retarded, trying to go against the gift. Love is shared, the love is multiplied. Put your freaks aside, forget about your weak pride. Run away with me and let's do it on the wild side. Like that.
Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise, you're on my mind, girl. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise. Eloise, I wanna know, am I the bro to get to know ya? Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise, I wanna know, am I the bro to get to know ya? Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Simply E with the MSB, the magical soul.
Eloise on my mind. What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? Let me turn these EQs down a little bit. What's up, everybody? I'm so excited. We're here on yet another PV versus everybody. Today's show, Productive People, here every Wednesday. I'm your host, Sed Brass, bringing you more content, more news, more information on what's going not only in just PV world, but in these SWAC streets. I'm excited to be here. Got a lot of exciting things on the show today. Got a lot of news. I've teased a lot with this week's graphic. I've teased it amongst a lot of PV people, amongst fan and intellectual spaces. So I'm here today to bring a lot to the table as far as what we're talking about in these SWAC streets, what we're talking about in these political streets, what we're talking about in these social streets, because they all have intersection. I know sometimes we look at them as outliers most of the time, but a lot of the time they intersect. And I think that's the greatest misconception, that we don't really focus on the bigger picture because we stay kind of hidden in our silos and what we think is comfortable. But today I'm here to challenge that. Hold on. Hey, let's get some PV. We're going to get this action going. Oh, man. That's always music to my ears. And especially, being an avid PV fan, we used to have, who you're rooting for was one of the chants we kind of drove into the ground. And being able to be an alumnus and watch the genesis of the PV chant kind of come into its own, I think it has a special place for me. I don't know about most PV alumnus, but for me, it's always been a special place. I'm be honest with you. The PV chant has always been special. But let me run through it because I started a little late today. So many clips, so much news, so much graphics and things behind the scenes that go into, trying to put the best production together for you guys when I do this show. Maybe I'm a little hyper focused on all the little details, but maybe that's just the engineer in me. Maybe that's the PV productive person in me. Maybe that's the excellence lives here in me. I don't know. Maybe it's just the old head in me. But I'm here. I'm ready. And we're ready to get engaged. I'm going to start off early. I always forget to put the link to the chat in there. You guys are welcome. It's an interactive show. I love to hear from everyone. I love to see the comments. As you know, the comment always coming across the stream. But also, I put the StreamYard link in there, so you're welcome to call. A lot of people call with themselves on video. A lot of people call without themselves. And while I'm sitting there doing a shameless plug, you guys follow, like, get the alerts. This is Lionel's Place, PV versus everybody. I'm just here as a guest on Wednesdays to do my thing, but support Lionel. All I ask is a follow. You can follow me. I'm right there in the bottom right at Sed Brass. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm also Sed Brass on Facebook. I'm also Sed Brass on YouTube. But more importantly, we're here for you to follow PV versus everybody. Like, subscribe, get the alert. Drop something in a little cash out for Lionel as well. It takes a lot to get this platform going and to keep it and maintain it. So if you're liking what you hear on the show and other platforms, he did a great job yesterday with By the Numbers. Broke down a lot of things with analytics is concerned. And I think it's important to support people. When you like something, support it, right? Let me go. Let's get through some of the announcements, because before I get into announcements, I want to thank everybody who sends me in the background all of the information that's going on campus, all of the information that's going on Alumni. Hey, man, put this up. Hey, man, put that up. I saw you put this up. So thank you, everybody. Keep sending it to me. Also, my Gmail is sedbrass@gmail. Send it to me. Send me the information. I'll put it up, get it out as much as I can, right? What we got? PV family, they need you. They're doing some things with archiving. They want to see some of the photos from everybody. There's the email on there, be brave at braveheart/ent.com. You can send a DM or IG. People talk more through DMs now than they do on emails. So that was smart for them to put the IG on there. You can DM them as well. But they're doing some big things across the history of PV. I have a hint that this might be integrated within the 150th anniversary. So feel free. If you have any photos or images from your time at PV, Here's the information for it, right? Okay. What else we got? Houston alumni. My girl, Nietzsche Blair. We go back. We go back. Before we get to that one, let's do some more community service. Humanity. Habitat for Humanity. Check them out. PV is integrating programming and philanthropic work with Habitat for Humanity. This is an upcoming volunteer effort. You don't have to have construction experience, just your time and able-bodied time and energy. So I think they have a volunteer list and the information is on the QR code. It's May 29th from 7:30 in the morning to 2:00 p.m. I'm not sure the location, but I know all of the information is up there for you. Check them out. Habitat for Humanity, PV, National Alumni Association, and Houston chapter are doing their thing. Now, speaking of PV Houston chapter, as I preempted, the new president, Nietzsche Blair, her number is on there. You can contact her. But our esteemed president, Dr. Tamikia LeGrand, and the vice president, Jeff Shaw, very rare opportunity to get to speak to both of them. Houston chapter is doing some things, y'all. I know a lot of people in the Houston area has been disengaged with the Houston chapter. It's time to wake y'all back up. We be before homecoming. Let's go. Houston people, y'all know y'all out there. It's time to re-engage. It's time to reinvigorate. We got big things going on in the Houston chapter. You got the president coming down. You got the vice president coming down. I'm sure Roosevelt will be there. The NAA president will be there. All your questions and all your concerns, but more importantly, a lot of your solutions. Come bringing some solutions to the table. Come ready to sign up. A lot of y'all are delinquent in y'all membership. We ready to get Houston chapter back on the map. We've got to get back on the map. Oftentimes we look to Dallas chapter, but Houston chapter is time to step up. May 16th, put it on your calendar. Get yourself on an alert. Check them out. What's up? I see y'all already active in the chat. What's up, Mike Dog? Mike Dog in the building. What's up? What's up? What's up? All right, what else we got? Now today, this one came off hot off the press. Today, I think most of y'all saw this in the PV spaces. This came hot off the press. PV on Martha's Vineyard. Now that is interesting. From somebody that's been going to Martha's Vineyard annually every year and seeing all of the East Coast representation in Boston and New York representation on the island. Hey, PV is going to be on Martha's Vineyard, y'all. And they're going to be doing some special things. This ain't just a party, right? This is networking. This is, showcasing PV at the highest level, representing our 150th anniversary. Save the date, August 11th through the 13th. Most of y'all know this is when Black Elite invade the island, the second and the third week of August, 2 weeks. I think this is the film festival week. And speaking of the film festival, there is a documentary that will be shown. Let me get a little bigger. There will be a documentary that will be shown about the history of Prairie View while at the Vineyard. From what I hear, I think there also will be like an art installation of photographs and images and black and whites and historical events that have taken place. They will have an art gallery installation also at the Vineyard. So it's going to be a good time on the island if you can make it. I know I'm checking this off on my calendar. I'm ready to hobnob, but I'm more importantly ready to represent. I've been in the background even talking to some people about putting together a house and renting a house together. This is going to be an event to remember. Martha's Vineyard, y'all. I'm going to be talking about this probably every week up to the time. So y'all gonna get tired of hearing me about the Vineyard, because people that know me personally know I talk about the Vineyard a lot anyway. Now that I know that we're going to be doing proper representation at the Vineyard, I'm ready to show up. No, I'm not bougie. Mr. Campbell. Not at all. We just got to network. We got to know how to network. And one thing we don't talk about much on this show, and I'm going to do an active job of doing that, is the March of Storm. The trumpet section just announced their section leaders, and they did a nice little marketing video for it. I'm gonna pop that up for y'all. Shout out to PV Band. Oh, no, shout out to PV Band. That's what's up. Marching Storm in the building. I plan to get more videos from each section, but someone dropped me that and said, "Hey, Sed, put that up on the show." I said, "Oh, for sure. Marching Storm in the building. Let's go, Marching Storm." All right, what else we got? Women's golf. Women's golf. Women's golf, the men didn't quite do that thing, but women's golf, they actually went to the next level. Let me pull that up for y'all. History always looks good on Prairie View. Panthers headed for the NCAA regions after winning the first SWAC championship. That's right. First SWAC championship. Look, this has been a very active, very, very active time for PV fan world. I think the haters are more upset than the fans are excited. If you want to really be honest about it, it's been a funny journey and a funny ride. Let me see if I can pull that. See if I can pull that up for y'all. I put invite guests. The link is in the chat also for y'all. Like I said. There it is right there. Okay. Women's golf. Prairie View women's golf team making history. Like I told you, it's big things at Prairie View going down. I know y'all see it coming. I don't even, I'm careful about gloating because there's a fine line between gloating and actual appreciation and pride. And I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to excellence at Prairie View and the things that we have coming down the pipeline. Shout out to PV in all facets, academically, sports, marketing, and now we're seeing the media. We're coming with full force in all directions, right? And we're setting a standard for the SWAC. That I know that's in the past have triggered a lot of people. I know that has triggered a lot of people when we start talking about PV excellence and being a standard. That I don't know what to tell y'all when it comes to that, right? But we do show love, so I'm gonna show love, right? Shout out in track. Jackson State claims the 2026 champion men's outdoor. First time since 1990. Well, welcome to this new generation, Jackson State. Welcome to winning. Welcome to some men's team winning over at Jane State. But I'm going to get them they flowers. Y'all don't get no graphic. But I will. Y'all get these words. Y'all going to get these good words. So shout out to Jackson State men's outdoor track and field. They are your 2026 SWAC champs. On the flip side, let's pull up some recognition, right? Because we did have some recognition. We're not gonna just fly by men's track. Y'all sit tight. We got some hot topics. We got some hot topics too. Y'all sit tight. We always got to do the housekeeping. Anytime we get together as a group, as a family, we got to let you know what we got going on out there. Gotta let you know. So just give me a little time to work through these. It's a few, but I'm not gonna go past. I was just gonna zoom past, men's track. I said, no, let's show some love, because that's what we do at PV. We show love. All right, here we go. We got second place, right? Roselle Woods, second place in the 400-meter hurdles. I think his personal record, he had a new personal record, 52.43 at the SWAC Outdoor Championships. Shout out to him. Shout out to this brother, right? We had another brother also in a pole vault. Let me see if I can find him. Put that right up in there for y'all. We got another brother in pole vault as well. Gonna pull him up. That was Daryl Muckleroy. I ain't want to mess the brother name up. Daryl Muckleroy, second place in pole vault. SWAC outdoor. Shout out to him. Shout out to this brother. Like I said, PV, we doing big things over here. I don't know what the rest of y'all doing, but we doing big things over here at PV. Right? Let me get back. Let me get out of here. Get out of here. But as I said, shout out to J State. Shout out to Jay Stank for winning the men's outdoor SWAC championship for 2026. Now, there's been a lot of controversy around that, but I'm not a hater. They won. They won. I think good coaching and good strategy, if you play within the bounds of the rules, it is what it is. So I'm not going to throw salt on what they did and what they achieved for this year. Now, on to the women and women's track. Now, different story. Back-to-back outdoors track and field champs. We got the Snakes. That's right. Florida A&M Rattlers. Women, they win the outdoor track and field. They brought the title home back-to-back. That's a shout out to them. Shout out to Jay Stank. I'm sure Mr. Campbell and his crew highlighted it enough for y'all. I'm sure they highlighted it enough for y'all. We actually had quite a few people field in some recognition and fielding. Right, we had a sister win in heptathlon, won the gold, and I think Texas Southern pulled up the actual silver, and Alabama A&M won the bronze. And you know what? Since we on some recognition, let's round the recognition out, right? Because it's not even about always about active players. We gotta sometimes show love to former players, because sometimes people forget. Sometimes people got short memories. That's in-house and outhouse. In-house and outhouse. There seems to be like short memories about what we do. But I don't have a short memory. Let me pull it up for y'all. Shout out to our brother, former quarterback, Jalen Morton, doing his thing over there in the UFL with Columbia. Say, pull that up for y'all. There I go. Take that.
Más de 72 minutos sin recibir.
Forget the Spanish. You got the visual.
De penetrar, persiguiendo ahora a Jalen Morton. El otro quarterback y va a penetrar.
That's what we talking about. That's PV excellence right there.
Aviator.
That's PV excellence for y'all.
Quarterback Jalen Morton se añade a la jugada.
And we still active. I remember those Jalen Morton years at PV.
Bueno, mira, yo te
they got more angles for y'all.
Que hace bien St. Louis es el tacleo uno contra uno. Y aquí lo fallan 1, 2, 3, 4 veces.
Man, I remember them Jalen Morton years.
Este acarreo hasta la
and I got some up my sleeve for y'all.
Muy buena respuesta.
Because this might have been the best PV in current day. Now, you know, Lionel can probably, tell me if I'm wrong or not. But that Jalen Morton PV squad had to be one of the best PV squads in current day. And that's saying a lot given what we did last year statistically. And maybe that's just because they ushered in the new change and a new dynamic for PV. So maybe I'm putting up more sauce on the dip. But I would love for Lionel to call in and let me know that Jalen Morton team, that PV Jalen Morton team was unstoppable. We had my man from Oregon at receiver. And those were those years, we were supposed to beat Rice that year. Rice came back at the last minute to beat it. That same year, we were supposed to beat Sam Houston that year also, too. That was another. We was given a business. You talk about FCS this year. That team was laying wood. They were laying wood to fellow FCS teams. And I think really they laid the groundwork to why a lot of those FCS schools are avoiding us now. To be honest with you. Let me take this down. Go back to my joint. Yeah. Jalen Morton. Shout out to Jalen Morton. If y'all remember him, Y'all know he was a dog at quarterback. I'm gonna put the link in there for y'all too. Put the link in there for y'all. Cause we gotta get some business. We gotta get some. I put the link to the actual YouTube. Y'all can have that too. Y'all can have that too. What else we got in updates? You know, I heard the birdies, you know, cause I peruse around all the little SWAC streets, and I heard the little birdies, you know, yapping about PV and what we got going on. And I heard them getting all worked up about our new field. You know, PV think they doing something over there because they got the new field. I heard y'all over there talking. We just getting started. We just getting started. Don't you worry about what y'all doing with y'all field. What y'all doing with y'all field? Are y'all over there painting? Are y'all getting some work done? Cause I ain't even come up. Cause don't worry about what we got. What was the what's that meme with the little kid? Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. Cause we got major things going on. Let me see if I can find that. I always get backup links. See if that's gonna work. Okay, that's coming up. All right. Here we go. Let me add it in there. Yeah, that's what I've been asking them. Are they what y'all doing? Are y'all doing anything? Are y'all painting? What y'all got? What's going on over at Bragg? What's going on over at Mumford? What's the updates over at J Stank at y'all stadium? What's the update? You know, we like to know. Here we are. You don't really need no audio with this. The new turf is finished. We ain't take long. New turf is finished. Lines are up. Everything is doing what it need to do. But let it run again because I know I started it too soon. Get a look. I was actually talking to somebody today. It was like, oh, I haven't seen the new field, the new turf. You know, it's so funny. I'm so overly engaged. This stuff I think is just regular mainstay for everybody. When I realize a lot of us are just caught up in our everyday work lives, and a lot of us aren't really as engaged in some of this stuff the way we are, the way the fandom are. All right. Let me get up out of there. Stop the audio. But shout out to the new turf. We ready to go and we shining and we looking good. You know, this also came up in the pipeline too. You know, outside. This came up as well. And that was the weight room. People were surprised and shocked about that, but we knew that was coming down the pipeline too. Let me put that up for y'all as well. Now that's not complete, but we just gonna give y'all a sneak peek just so y'all can see the work that's in progress. This not complete. Before y'all get too excited. Let's share that. Yeah. But as you can see, all the weight room equipment is gone. We got some things coming up in the back. You see them back there laying down the framework. Now, a little birdie told me that we're putting up a bunch of LED stuff in the weight room. And you see that new LED wall up there at the very end, right? That's what a little birdie told me. So we got some big things going down in the weight room. That's I just showing y'all the before. Obviously, in the up and coming weeks, we're gonna get into the after. But I just wanted to tap into that real quick. I just want to run through the updates. When we get together, we gotta update everybody on what's going on. I know everybody want to get the hot takes and want to know, you know, what's going on out here in the SWAC streets, but we got to do housekeeping. We got to do housekeeping, and we got to stay engaged on what's going on at the university and what's going on at the alumni level. And I sent out the word to everybody to let them know this week wasn't gonna be, a bunch of mess, because it seems like we're always responding to mess because we have to like defend. We got to defend ourselves in these SWAC streets. But I did have a somewhat problematic take from this past week, so I'm kind of, pardon me, y'all, if I'm going back on my word. But I just had to address this, right? Because when people say wild stuff, especially when it comes to like PV name in their mouth, we gotta address it. We got to address it. So let me get my links together. All right, so and stuff that we seemingly think is just regular, I'm thinking a lot of this stuff is just regular, but there's always a PV take in the midst of a lot of these conversations. And that's okay, because when you're the SWAC champs, that's oftentimes that just comes with the course. So I'm not bothered by that, but just be right in your take. Have some semblance of truth, right? HBCU Go announces the 2026 football schedule. Okay. Now, me personally, I like HBCU Go programming. They don't catch a lot of the games because there's now so much competition in the market with ESPN, and obviously we see SWAC TV is doing their thing too. So HBCU Go, I will say their programming is top tier. And I think they've taken the old BET format and now applied it to the platform over here at HBCU Go. But I'm interested in what's the longevity and what's the long plan. What's the long plan for HBCU Go? We see Byron Allen acquiring multiple platforms and media streams, but is there intersection? Is there growth? Is there expansion? Is there more programming? Is he going to build this out into a network? Is it going to be, SVOD, or is it just going to stay VOD? Like how is this going to like scale? I think that's always been my question with HBCU Go. Now, that being said, they've listed their slate of games that they're going to carry for the 2026 season. Okay, cool. We hyped about football. Now, as you can see, PV's homecoming is on there. We play all corn for our homecoming, and that's the only game that's going to be on HBCU Go. Now, as you can see, the Rattlers, they got 4 games on here, and you see what Jay Stank got 2 games. For me, not much to see here, right? Not much to see here. Great, we got a game on HBCU Go, but there seemed to be a lot of excitement over this, and I don't know if that's just kind of people being overzealous because there's not much to talk about in the football space, but people seem to be a little bit excited about this schedule. So let me get to some of the responses about this so-called schedule and the fact that PV only has 1 game aired on here. Let me see if I can find some of this stuff. Let's I had to get that for context. Okay, here we go.
Prairie View's homecoming. PV12 got that new field. They right there bragging about Zoe. So everybody gonna get to see it nice on TV.
Hey Steve, you kind of scrolled a little bit because I was about to say the darling of the SWAC only got 1 game on TV on HBCU Go.
Wait. Well, see. Okay. So first of all, that's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because you see who they looking at. Because I see 1, 2, 3, 4 of them came from the Rattlers. So let's understand. And in the great words of the commissioner, Christmas in July when the Rattlers came down.
I'm just saying, you would like to think that the conference champion would be, a lightning rod.
That darling. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, you would like to think that, the conference champion will be a lightning rod the following season, to really have a lot of games on television.
Let me pause it there. Hold on, let me pull me up. So, saying it several times. So you would think PV would be a lightning rod for HBCU Go. What? How? What? Where? Why? For what? How is this any indication of success and greatness? The amount of games that are shown on HBCU Go. this is delusional kind of like ideology. This is how they think about football. This is how they think about media. This is how they think about marketing. But more importantly, this is how they think about broadcasting. It's like laughable at best. But let me let this kind of play out. I got to chop it up because it's, a lot said here. But I'm going to let this play out. Mr. Campbell tries to go into, how there's tiers. Right? HBCUs there's a tier system where the ESPN gets first rights, and then HBCU Go gets second rights, and then somehow the SWAC TV gets third right. Now, that's not necessarily false. That's not necessarily false, but it's not that simple. It's nuanced based on scheduling, based on what's available at specific time slots. So what you see on HBCU Go isn't necessarily an indication of choice as in best selection. It has a lot to do with scheduling and time frames. And so a lot of this has to do with that, which I'm not surprised why you have a FAMU having multiple games in there based on their region and based on their time zone, right? But let's continue hearing some more of this logic on how the darling of the SWAC somehow was begrudged based on not being on HBCU Go and only having one game. Let's get to it some more.
Because I remember, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if we go back year to year, in 2021, Jack State won the SWAC. The following year, we had about 8 or 9 games on TV. Right. We won in 2022. We came back, we had about 8 or 9 games on TV. 2023, when FAMU won it, they came back, they had a lot of games on TV. FAMU's on here 4 or 5 times now. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Rocky, listen.
Hold on. Let's address that too. People won a SWAC championship, and there's some kind of blow up that he's trying to make the correlation that somehow after you win the SWAC championship, then there's some type of media success that comes with that. Now I'm gonna pull this down because I might have some receipts on this. Because anybody know he said 2023, 2024, right after FAMU won the SWAC championship in 2023, there was some kind of media success that came in 2024 based on that. And the funny part is Prairie View played FAMU in that 2023 SWAC championship game. So you heard him just allude to somehow that being some kind of through line and how we see success. Let me see if I got some receipts on that. Because, I like to do a lot of talking, but I also like to have receipts behind what I'm talking about. Let's see. Do we have that? Do we have it? See, preview, share PV. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to go to the phone for this one. Boom. All right. Oh, I do have that one. I do have it. Gallery. Y'all just sit tight. We're going to pull it up. There we go. Right there. PV 2024 schedule. Let's see what PV 2024 schedule looked like. Can we add that in there? Let's see what the PV 2024 schedule is. Right? What was our airing schedule? Stop the screen. Let's add this one in here. Let's go. Let's add this image in there. Let's add it in there. Y'all sit tight. PV 2024. Oh, okay, there we go. Boom. Let me know if y'all see that on the screen. PV 2024 football schedule, ESPN coverage. What do you see? I got it as big as possible. What do you see? Texas Southern Labor Day Classic, ESPN Plus. What do you see? Northwestern State, ESPN Plus. Michigan State, Big Ten Network, and ESPN Plus. Southern, ESPN Plus. State Fair Classic, Grambling, ESPN Plus. Incarnate Word, ESPN Plus. UAPB, ESPNU. Texas A&M Commerce, ESPN Plus. Florida A&M, ESPN Plus. Yo, every game this 2024 season was on ESPN. Every game. Like, and this isn't even my argument, but this is what I'm talking about when people just be talking. They just be talking and then don't know what they talking about. Like just making up theories off the cuff. Y'all supposed to be talking about HBCU go schedule, and somehow that turned into a think piece about how Prairie View must not be the preeminent school it is because they not on HBCU go and they only have one game. Now, let's continue this trend. Let's continue this trend because this is funny and laughable at best. Let me go back to that clip.
I don't know, but I'm gonna make a Rocky because you my guy. And man, shout out to Rocky Miller. His daughter graduated from Prairie View, man.
Congratulations to Rocky's daughter, man.
And Rocky now has to listen to her explain to him why it's great to be an HBCU alum. So I
got a question. You said they're gonna have a lot of games, so you think?
Wait.
Oh, see, I'm gonna ask. So you think? I don't know. I hadn't seen ESPN schedule.
Let me ask my question. Let me ask my question. Go time to your question. So I want you guys to understand how the games are selected on TV.
Yeah, he went through the tier system.
TV.
I don't really know.
So the question is, are you gonna have more games on SWAC TV or ESPN? I'm gonna make a bet with you, Rocky, that them games on SWAC TV.
Okay, that's the point he's making. I'm going to make a bet with you, Rocky, that these games are going to be on SWAC TV, as if that's some type of third tier. Let it play out.
So my see you beat you took my thunder, Steve, because I was about to ask Rocky, do you think PV gonna have a lot of games on ESPN? So the conference champion, they gonna carry the flag on ESPN. Do you think that's what it is? Because I can assure you, I'll be willing to place a little wager, Rocky and everybody else. I think Jack still probably have more ESPN games than the conference champion.
Now this is what they resting their hat on. This is what they're gonna rest their hat on, right? This how you know PV is really, really grinding the gears of everybody else that's in the SWAC. Let me pull me back up right here because I don't have much to talk on them now. I bet you any type of money that Jackson State is going to have more games on ESPN than Prairie View. This is what they're talking about now. Not we want to play PV. Not we will beat PV. Now the competition is, I bet you we going to have more games. I bet you we going to have more games on ESPN. Now, here's the funny part about, and I'm going to try to speed through this because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Now, here's the funny thing about this, right? And I was sharing this with Dr. Proctor offline, right? This lets you know that they don't understand market share. I have 2 points on this, right? Hold on. We got somebody. Okay, we got Lionel in here. Great time. What's up, Lionel?
Yo, what's good? What's good?
What's up? I was just about to cook.
No. Go ahead and cook, and I'm just gonna come in and serve the dish. That's it. Just go ahead and cook. I just want to serve the dish. That's all.
Man, perfect timing. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad you're here. How you doing, man? How you doing today? Before I get back into it,
I am doing excellent. Other than my daughter, who is trying, instead of using her straws, trying to drink out the whole of the juice. But we working on that.
Yeah, man. Well, shout out to you being a proud father. I'm always. I don't know if I tell you this, man. I'm proud of you, man. I always see you doing your thing, and you have your family, your wife, and your daughter there. So I just wanted to say shout out to you, man. I know Mother's Day just passed, but I always have a special place in my heart for the fathers out there, man. So shout out to what you do, man. Now to my point, right? Now here's what's interesting, right? I had two positions on this that shows you why JSU and Jay Stank and Delusional, their thinking is off, and why they are antiquated program. Two trains of thought. My first one is market share, right? When we talk about market share and understanding eyeballs, this is why I call J-State the participation award of the SWAC. They're the champs of participation awards. If you notice, they always focus and talk about attendance numbers, which has nothing to do with revenue share for the SWAC. Attendance numbers has nothing to do with corporate sponsorships and fostering more money being brought to the SWAC. Attendance numbers has nothing to do with more eyeballs on the SWAC other than who's physically in the actual building, right? And so when you're kind of stuck in the participation awards, you get excited for things like ESPN because ESPN is essentially a cup. They're merely a vessel. But for the SWAC, which is SWAC football, which is the actual fluid that fills the vessel, these are the two entities. JSU is stuck on the fact that they have a golden chalice in ESPN to be able to fill that cup with some good fluid, but you're limited in how much fluid you're actually going to bring, right? Then we have SWAC TV. Now we're talking about essentially a backyard pool. And you're talking about the same fluid that's in your golden chalice. And now we're talking about a pool that's full with the same liquid, the same substance. Now, what fluid has more volume? Which fluid has more actual tangible resources and assets to it? It's the one that's filled in the actual pool. But they're more worried about the actual golden chalice, which is very small and very limited in what you can actually fill it in. And so when you understand the market share, and this is where Lionel can come in at, because he articulates it to a whole nother level than me. When you talk about media market share, especially across the SWAC, there's no bigger media market than Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, right? When you start talking about PV eyeballs in the media market in which its fan base resides, you're talking about the largest actual media market share. I don't care how many people are filling up a stadium at J Stank and how many eyeballs on J Stank. They're not in a high media market. Neither is Southern. Neither is Alcorn. Neither is FAMU. None of them are in a large market, media market share. The only other person can do that is Texas Southern, right? And Texas Southern still don't have the market reach outside of Houston that Prairie View does. When you start talking about Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, right? And so this is not an anomaly why the largest or the most viewed game in SWAC TV was Prairie View and what? UTRGV. What was second? What? PV and Texas Southern, right? Two Houston market teams. You're talking about a large media market. What happens when you are able to get high volumes of eyeballs on you? Not only just exposure, that's the sexy part, but we're talking about advertising dollars. We're talking about ad dollars. We're talking about ad revenue. We're talking about corporate sponsorships. This sets you right up for those opportunities, right? Now, these are things that, unfortunately, people like Mr. Campbell and Zoe are blind on. They're blindsided in understanding this simple concept. Before I keep going, you got something to add on that, Mr. Lionel?
Yeah, for sure. I think you articulated very well. And we talked about it on the show the other day when we talked about, PV, the birthday, right? The reality is in 2026, Prairie View A&M is in the areas where the largest media markets are for the entire SWAC. That's just facts, right? Which is why, because again, we talked about 3 separate games because people can say, oh, they want to use South Carolina State and say, oh, it's an anomaly for this. But when you talked about the Labor Day Classic, you talked about you game with UTRGV it being the highest eyeballs for SWAC TV. Talk about this again, the Celebration Bowl on eyeballs it pulled, and then you talk about the SWAC championship game with Prairie View and Jackson being the second highest, most viewed since the Dion game, right? Which Dion should have had the most eyeballs, right? To me, again, there's something there. That's not just nothing. You just showed the year after Prairie View went to the SWAC championship game, didn't even win the SWAC championship game. All the games on ESPN affiliates, right? So again, first of all, the real thing is what we even talking about in the first place, right? What we even having a conversation about, right? It's just shade for no reason because it's 2026. What does even on TV mean? We're living in the area of in the time and the era of streaming. Correct. Everything is on TV, right? SWAC TV is on TV, right? You know what I'm saying? Like if you got ESPN Plus, it's on TV. If you on HBCU Go, it's on TV. What we even talking about, right? If it's streaming, it's on TV. The real conversation is how many people are viewing you, no matter where they're being able to find you. This is why you have to think. If UTRGV versus Prairie View was on ESPN Plus, I think less people watch it than the people that watch it because it's on SWAC TV. Now, unless they're gonna release those numbers, we never gonna really be able to truly be able to quantify that, right? But I think most of us would believe that that's just factual, right? Having access to an app where you can watch games for free allows people in the Valley to be able to put their eyeballs on the game that many of them may not pay that price to actually watch the game through this streaming network of ESPN Plus. And like Adrian Cook put it in earlier, I'm just like him. I got apps where I can watch ESPN Plus when I want to for free, right? So the reality is there's ways to get around it anyway, right? You know what I'm saying? So what does on TV even mean in the first place? And does it matter if you're on TV but nobody watches you? The reality is even Jackson folks ain't watching them play against Edward Waters.
Correct.
Is Jackson people who ain't gonna show up to the Edwards Waters game? They gonna watch the Edwards Waters game when they know what the result gonna be. They not watching that game. So you telling me that game gonna have more eyeballs than Prairie View versus Stephen F. Austin?
Correct.
So again, and this is where we get into the games matter, right? The games matter. The teams matter. Who you're playing against matters. It's important. So at the end of the day, I think the ESPN schedule ain't out, so the whole conversation is useless in the first place because the reality is Prairie View is going to have probably just as many games as Jackson State on ESPN. You know what I'm saying? First of all, we already know they're going to have 4 games on ESPN just based on what the schedule looks like and the opponents we're playing. So we're probably going to end up with the same or more games on ESPN in the first place. But again, doesn't even matter. ESPN Plus is playing on ESPN Plus even better than playing on HBCU Go or SWAC TV in the first place anyway? So that's my thing. What is the conversation even? What are we even talking about, right? If it ain't ESPN2, if it ain't ESPN, if it ain't ABC, then what we really having a conversation about, right? Because ESPN Plus ain't different than SWAC TV, ain't different than I think HBCU Go, like you said, right, is more valuable than the other two at this moment, right? So the truth is, to me, it's just shade for no reason at the end of the day.
But you kind of pivoted. You kind of went into my second point, right? This is where we're going to see the disadvantage of having cupcake schedules. See, at first everybody was like, "Oh, it don't mean nothing. It don't mean right." But when we start talking about eyeballs and we start talking about visibility, see, when you're playing competitive schools, your actual analytics and your numbers about watched games is going to be inflated, right? And so, as I kind of developed this point, I would put a bet on top of that bet that he put out. And I would say, I bet you PV will have more eyeballs that have watched PV on media streams than J-State.
I believe that too. Yeah.
For sure, the first 4 games of the year, right? We're playing Baylor. We're playing the first Tarleton State. And who's the other two? Texas Southern, right? And then Stephen F. Austin, right? You can't tell me that J State will even be a fourth of what we will have when we start talking about visibility. And that's the most important part, right? Because when you play competitive schools and schools that have large fan bases, that expands your actual analytics and your statistics and what you're actually bringing to the table in the actual media space. See, that's the good part, right? Now you're on the Big Ten network that we were showing earlier, right? We will be on Baylor's network. Now you're in opportunities and to be able to draw from these large fan bases, because we play Tarleton State and there's so much hype around Tarleton State. I can already tell you those numbers on that game with PV versus Tarleton State. And if that game is anyway close and competitive, you're talking about a rocket ship for Prairie View for the rest of the year. People are going to want to watch what's going to happen at Baylor. People are going to want to watch what's going to happen at Stephen F. Austin. And for sure, people are going to be dialed in for the Labor Day Classic. Like, so you can approach this in so many like logical and analytical ways that the mere he had dropped off. You can approach this in so many ways that the logic makes so much sense than the emotions. I'm gonna let the clip play out because I love the shout out when he starts going into the whole, the darling of the SWAC. And I'm gonna let it in there, and I'm gonna get to the rest of the show. But let me see if I can find that back, add it back there, add it back. Let it play out. Let it play out.
Oh, I like that bet too. I like that, and I like my bet. I like my bet that they're gonna be. Hey, listen, they're going to be the darlings on SWAC TV. And hey, nothing. Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with that because everybody has a place. So again, if you want to just listen to what Zoe's saying. Okay, Jack State can hold down ESPN. Pam, you gonna hold down HBCU Go, and Pam, you can hold down SWAC TV. You can hold it down.
It's Rocky. It look good when you type it. I ain't gonna say it though, but it look good when you type
it. He said.
So yeah, we'll end it there because it's mostly just kind of a lot of cackling after that. Most of that's just cackling and laughter and stuff, which I think is just all interesting. Anytime somebody talks about PV, I'm always interested. My analytical mind just starts spiking. No emotion whatsoever. I'm like, okay, what's the thought process here? Then I'm realizing when you're talking to delusional people, there is no analytical process. There is no logic. That's why a lot of these conversations, we're kind of disabled for a lot of these conversations because we're not driven by emotions, right? We might have passion, but our logic isn't driven by emotions. And our emotions don't get the best of us. But how can I be pragmatic and how can I be logical about my approach to situations? That's a tough one. And that's what drives people crazy. I think that's the reason why we get a lot of hate and a lot of people, really can't stand us because we're not like most of the people that move around SWAC and how we like to approach problem solving and how we approach critical analysis. You got something you want to add in there, Lionel?
I would just say, man, I think it's pretty simple, right? And I would ask, you can even ask Jackson people this: what game you gonna put more eyeballs on, Jackson versus Edward Waters, or PV versus Tarleton? Because the reality is, they gonna watch the Tarleton game because they want to see us lose bad. Then they are gonna be in front of the Edward Waters game, right? You telling me people gonna watch Jackson versus Tuskegee more? Or are people going to be more excited to see Prairie View versus Texas Southern? Or even a PV versus SFA, for example, right? The reality is more people are going to watch that game. People in the space not even going to watch Jackson versus Tuskegee or Edward Waters. So you already down to 9 games. People already ain't putting their balls on those two. So, correct. Like you said, it's about the eyeballs at the end of the day, right? Streaming and streaming. I mean, TV is everywhere now. What again? What we talking about? Every TV I buy right now, I can watch whatever app I want to on the TV. Listen, the analytics of this channel shows that most people watching this right now on TV. So what is on TV? What we even talking about, right? So again, how many eyeballs is there? That's what matters, right? And as you said, it's going to show that scheduling is more important. I also think, and we didn't include this and talk about this, right? But the SWAC making a mandatory that you can't schedule these NAIA and all these other games, right? I believe a part of that is also the fact that nobody will watch those games.
Correct.
Nobody's going to watch those games.
Correct.
Those games have zero replay value, right? Listen, we're part of the PV12 Nation chat, right? Many of us have talked about going back and watching the Alabama State game. We talked about going back and watching the Labor Day Classic, even the State Fair Classic. How many of us have went back and watched the homecoming game against Lincoln?
Correct.
Somebody please tell me. I mean, nobody watched that game, right? Many of us ain't even watched the game against Valley. Some of us haven't gone watch the Alabama A&M game, right? Why? Because it was no game. It was no game, right? You know what I'm saying? So the reality is the SWAC knows this as well. And if they trying to build a product, a real product that's viable, that they can go to market and say, hey, I want you to put such and such $1 million up because people are coming here. Well, guess what? Obviously you got to have something that people are putting their eyes on, and you got to know the difference between unique viewers versus replay, et cetera, right? So hey, the SWAC got all the analytics. They can see right now what games have been watched over and over again after the game is over, right? Because they can see the difference between a complete unique viewer versus a replay viewer, right?
Correct.
And they can see that, right? They can see the games that's got a lot of attraction. So at the end of the day, the SWAC is smart because they say, listen, we can't have, we obviously got to keep the D2 games because there's history there, but we're not having any of the other ones. So, that's all I'm saying. I think that's a part of the conversation. We also not considering with the SWAC changing the games too.
Great point. That's why I love having you on here, man. Because when we start getting into the meat and potatoes of this, it's kind of irrefutable. And it's funny, this slight sidebar, and I'm gonna get to our next topics, right? But this how this all started, right? Excuse the pun, but we were two-manning. We were two-manning the podcast out here, going in these podcasts, creating disruption, bringing logic, statistics, and facts, and no emotion. And that was driving people crazy. And just hearing you on the stream just reminded me of shades of going into these SWAC streets and trying to have articulation with people. And they were just straight delusion. And I'll add this and we can move on. You bring up a great point when it talks about the viability of how we see multiple streaming and TV platforms, but we also talk about we're in the age of digital streaming platforms, right? So no longer is there great viability by being on television. We see that with network TV, right? They're wondering, how is these Tubi, how are people with a iPhone, how is these Kai Cenats, right? How are these kids out here putting more eyeballs on their one little 1 hour, 2 hour, however long streams than we can across the span of a network that we've been throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars. So yes, you feel good because you're on TV, but these streamers are killing it, which is why, by the way, they're now undercutting these streamers by not allowing them to get the actual reach, because that's too much power. Nobody can have 1 million followers and hit a button and be able to click and be able to view 1 million people at one time.
And say it, that goes into what we're talking about now, right? So again, what does on TV even mean? Because those kids, because Casanats and all them, they getting advertising dollars. They getting big companies putting up big money for them. Are those kids watching linear television? Are they watching linear TV? So don't like what again? What are we talking about? What we having a conversation about? Like, It don't matter. It don't even matter if you're on linear TV if nobody's watching you there. It don't matter, right? Linear TV only matters because of the reach of it. And you want your brand to get out there. You want eyeballs to be there that typically wouldn't see that. That's the whole point, the whole benefit, right? But at the end of the day, listen, ESPN Plus versus SWAC TV versus HBCU Go, bro. It don't even matter. Like at this point in time, even if we were talking about a few years ago when people with the schools were putting their games on YouTube, bro, every game is televised. Like what we talking about? Every game been televised for a long period of time at this point. All we really discussing is where is it televised at, and what's the benefits of it being televised one place versus another, right? You know what I'm saying? But every game been Valley been on TV. These almost all Valley games been on TV too. Matter of fact, all Valley games been on TV. Again, what's the conversation about? But anyway, I'm out your hair, man. I appreciate the show. I'm enjoying it, man.
Love it. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Love having you, man. Give a shout out to Lionel, y'all. I absolutely love when Lionel calls in, and I put the link in there. Anybody else is welcome, because as much as I have my opinion and position, what really kind of amplifies what we put out there in the social media is the conglomerate of thinking spaces of what PV fans and alumni actually project out there and what we actually share. That's on full display. You know, I'm simply here as a host, and I'm going to give my take, but I find pure enjoyment and excitement by seeing all of the fans across the PV fan space be able to articulate themselves in their own unique and faceted way. And I think that's the real beauty of showing PV and the excellence that we have in full display for people. It might be new to everybody else, but it's not new to us. This is why it's so natural. It's not new to us. This is just like what we naturally do. I'm going to take a quick break. Since we talking about excellence, real quick, just a little 1-minute video showcasing senior preview day. And then we're going to get into the next hot topic. But, you know, senior academic preview day just happened. We love to talk about academics. I know I do at Prairie View. So we're celebrating the future excellence at Prairie View. Senior academic preview day. We didn't have this type of stuff when I was there. So I get real excited seeing it now. It is nothing short of inspiring when you talk about senior academic preview day. And we bring in new students or potential students that are interested in Prairie View, and they get to see the university on full display. This is a little bit bolder and bigger than your normal kind of traditional kind of visit. And so I just wanted to show a sneak peek of this for y'all.
Hail Future Panthers! This is Mrs. YG from Pantherland. Listen, I am so excited to have our sesquicentennial students coming in with their families. We're looking forward for them to have a productive day and start their journey as productive Panthers here on the hill.
Hi, I'm Michelle McElroy, alumni, class of 1998 and 2001. This is my third child who's attending Prairie View and University, and I'm excited to find out what's new on the hill. Go Panthers!
My name is Sawani Grayson. I'm going to be studying psychology. I like the diversity of the campus and the size of the campus. It's a really nice campus.
And overall, how I feel about PV, I feel like it's very family oriented, and I feel like I'm just gonna actually like have a good time, but at the same time get a good education.
One thing I love about PV is definitely the family oriented organizations and the staff.
Today has been like really beneficial for me because like I've learned about College of Business. I've learned about like the bridge program. I just been more like insightful on like what to know and like how to be prepared for fall.
I'm glad I had the opportunity to be here, and I'm just happy to meet new people and just really understand HBCU life and the culture.
I'm so glad to see that these upcoming high schoolers are excited to be here. I love the energy they brought. I love the questions they had. And I love that they were prepared to be future Panthers.
Shout out to PV, y'all. Shout out to PV. That's what we talking about right there, man. That's what we talking about. And funny, shout out to me too, also, by the way. I finally figured out how to do transitions from video to video. I always kind of fumble putting down the video, then putting myself back on the screen. I realized that you can overlay it. Anyway, over explaining. Y'all don't care about all that technical stuff. Very smooth transition. I felt like a DJ right there. My transition time was really good. At the end of the day, shout out to PV Excellence. Keep sending me the videos, y'all. Keep sending me the videos. I get so many videos and clips and messages. Send them to me. Whatever y'all got going on that's PV related, whether it be a family member, whether it be something that alumni is doing, some type of personal achievement. I look for this place to be a home base for us at PV. This is a fan show. Most of the shows that are out there, they are more athletic driven about football, and that's cool too. We talk a lot about football, but I do try to showcase a lot about what we're doing at PV, our progress, a lot of our successes, some of the things that we're working on. You know, I like it to be a think tank. This is a good incubator to get across everything that we want to encapsulate when it comes to PV, when it comes to excellence. Now to the main event, right? The main event, productive people. HBCU at the ballot box. I know this was a tongue twister. I know some people messed this up. I want an HBCU at the ballot box. We got a lot going on in these political spaces, y'all. And we gotta get serious out here. We gotta get serious out here. I'm gonna leave that up there like that. Boy, that boy getting tight with his production skills. Anyway, I'm just laughing at myself. We got to get serious, right? I'm smiling, but it's so much internal going on at one time. It's crazy. HBCU at the ballot box. What's going on? Everybody have been seeing the clips, so I don't have to belabor the point. I think there's a lot of fear factor going on when we start talking about they're gutting the Voters' Rights Act. Yes and no, right? What does that mean, and what are the implications of that? And what does that kind of speak to in layman's terms, right? Simply for the people that really don't know, it's really addressing Section 2 of the Voters' Rights Act that passed in 1965. Section 2 simply talked about the disenfranchisement and how racial discrimination played amongst Black folks in voting. All right. What we got in here? Let me add my brother in here. Dr. Proctor. What's up?
What's up, fam? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man. I can hear you. I could pause. What you got?
Okay.
I know you got something going.
Good evening, man. Good evening to everybody, man. Keep doing your thing. I'm enjoying the show. Your Lionel kind of pumped me up, so I had to call in and give my take on this viewership thing.
Let's loop back. I ain't even get started on the ballot box yet. Let's loop back. Let's go.
No, my thing is this, man. You know, you kind of mentioned how they kind of framed it as a tier situation with ESPN, then HBCU Go, then in the third tier is SWAC TV, and Campbell was like, yeah, Prairie View can hold down SWAC TV as if that was a bad thing, right?
Correct.
And my thing is that's a great thing. We sure will hold down SWAC TV. You know, we're the founders of the SWAC. Let us hold down SWAC TV. You guys can go and chase ESPN. You can chase HBCU Go and do all those things. We take pride in playing our games on SWAC TV. We take pride in winning on SWAC TV. We take pride in having one of the largest viewerships on SWAC TV. Like, this idea where being somewhere else is better than being at home has to go fly a kite. We have to get in the mindset that we have to build our own networks and our own programming and bring those sponsorship dollars home to the conference, right? And that's where the shared responsibility of building our conference comes from it and should lie. So that was my thing. I'm like, people, they should be saying, hey, we're going to invest our fan base in SWAC TV. Like, that should be the home of the SWAC. We should have the sponsors coming and the networks coming and trying to buy our sponsorship spaces, our advertising dollars, even our viewership, paying us to view our games, right? That's the level that we should be on. And then forcing SWAC TV to then become a broader network, right? And do more things with the broadcasting and programming on its network. And that's where we should be. So to try to say SWAC TV is a third tier or try to slight us for being on SWAC TV was some BS by Campbell. And I wish that as a collective, we would think more about investing in SWAC TV. And so that's what crossed my mind. I remember last year when we played Texas Southern University, we were one of the first games to be viewed on SWAC, on the SWAC TV network, and we won. And so it felt good for people to then, be interested in finding the SWAC TV on the net to see the game. That was part of the pageantry of the weekend, right? For people who were not in the city, they were able to say, hey, man, where can I find the game? Hey, man, go to SWAC TV. What's SWAC TV? Man, that's where they're airing out all of our games now. And so that's part of it. And that's part of the growth, as opposed to just trying to say, okay, I'm going to go over to, we take pride in being on ESPN because that's better. No, it's not.
Well, you know what a lot of these people, white ice is colder.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? White ice is colder. When actually, my engineering coming out, right? The white in the ice is actually impurities. The clearer the ice, the more pure it is, right? So that little whiteness that we had, that's that ghetto ice. We take it out the faucet and we have to put it in there, and we put it in the freezer, and there's no clearing it. The whole block is gray, right? That ain't nothing but impurities.
Right. It would take us to talk about chemistry and and that's what, so often we are lacking. We're lacking the chemistry that's involved in building the SWAC. And so we need to do better. But anyway, that was my mind frame on where you were with that.
No, I think you spot on that, man. And that's what we got to need. I didn't even get into the cultural aspect of it, right? We went straight analytical, but what you're waking up is the cultural aspect of it. We don't even take pride and excellence in actually building our own. And shout out to Dr. McCullen for saying, hey, I'm gonna create a platform so we can do our own. So we don't go with our hand out, trying to get a Sweetwater buttermilk biscuit, right?
You're absolutely right.
Like the biscuits, huh?
Because now we're in control of the analytics. We don't have to think about receiving our analytics third hand. We really don't know what those numbers are doing, right? And to be honest, they can tell us we had X amount of views, but do we really know? So now we're able to count the analytics, the viewership ourselves. We can make a corrective action if the viewership was down, and we can analyze, okay, was it the time of day? Was it the matchup? Was it bad camera angles? What caused this game to not do as well as another game? And then we're able to look at the on demand, like Lionel said earlier, how many people are viewing this game, a week later, a month later, a year later? Is this a classic game? We could go into a classic catalog of games because we now own the content. So it's a whole realm of possibilities once we're airing, producing, viewing our own content in our own games and putting it on our own network. And that's where we need to be.
Nah, shout out to you, man. Thank you for waking it back up, because we kind of just glossed through it. Shout out, we got Brandon Bell, president of PV Football Alumni Association, right? PV Football Alumni Association in the building. We also got Isaiah on the line, Section 107. If anybody know PV Stadium, section 107 is the premier section in the stadium. That's where we got the lounge. That's where we got the bar. That's where we got the rowdiest fan base. Forget what people talking about PV 12 fans. Section 107 where it's at.
Yes.
Everybody know we stand up, we yell, we got all kind of noise going. We got our drink going in the bar that's in the back. Most of y'all stadiums don't even have club level seating where you got actual bar service, right? I'm not gonna go belabor this stuff, man, because when we get on PV, I get excited. So shout out to Brandon Bell, shout out to Isaiah. Welcome to the stream. We got Dr. Proctor in here.
Yes,
this is PV excellence. If y'all don't know, this is PV excellence at its highest right now.
Hey man, look, I'm glad to be on, man. I missed you last time. I talked to Lionel today and said it was a great show the other day. But man, I piggyback on everything that Proc said, man. It's an opportunity for us to grow something that was built for us to be able to survive and thrive, man. I think a lot of times in certain situations we discount that, and then when the bottom falls out on another platform, then we run back and say, why didn't this work out? It's because we didn't do what we were supposed to do.
Yes.
Which is take care of home first. And
Yes.
I'll say this with Mr. Campbell and the delusional his partner in crime. I'm gonna just be honest. What I'm hearing is a lot of hurt. I'm still hearing the hurt and the disappointment from the way the season went for them. Because if you look at the tone of everything that he does or everything that he says, it's some form of fashion. Even if we do something positive or do something right, he has to find some way to discount it. And what that means is he's still hurt. And just say you hurt. If you just come out and say, hey man, I'm still upset the way the season ended, man. I feel some type of way. I got more respect for that. But don't try to discount everything that we do in a positive light, especially when we give you facts. And when we give you facts, those are the things that they don't like. Mr. Campbell's gonna ride. He gonna flip flop. He gonna do his thing, but he gonna ride for FAMU. And I get that, but at the same time, you know, it's only so much that we can do as fans, and only so much that we can do alumni. But don't discredit what a university is building, because at one point, you know, it was Prairie View the laughing stock. Even when I first got it, we went 3-7, 7-3, 9-1, lost to Grambling, and didn't get a championship that year, and then turned around
And won it all.
and then turn around and won the SWAC championship, and then KJ tears his ACL. Wish we had an opportunity to repeat again. But I say all that to say this, man. Like I've been a part of that rebuilding, so I saw what it looks like to not have the things that we have, and to get the things that we have now is well deserving for those kids, and that's why. Where I am as a president, man, we just trying to build something to be able to give back and build better than what we had. So, man, I commend y'all. Proc, man, doing an awesome job, man, behind the scenes. Most people don't realize the things that he does, man. Like, I commend y'all guys, and Isaiah, and even said getting on here, man, just being honest, man, and having an honest conversation. But look, if like Coach said, if you scared, say you scared. But if you hurt, say you hurt. Just say you hurt. That's all it boiled down to. Just say you hurt.
Nah, yeah, you right. A lot of people church hurt, man. It's that same hurt that you got at church. You know, the core in them is really built on love. That's why I don't really get mad, because it's much like church hurt. You have that passion, but somehow the relationship went awry, and somehow you just can't get past that. It's almost like church hurt, and then it's that feeling that you have when you had that ex that went on that did better, right? It's that same feeling, but you still stuck, right? And the best you ever had, you're looking at it through the rear view mirror, and you're seeing that succeed. And that's what a lot of people are saying when they see PV. They're mad that we have moved on, and they're mad that now they see the excellence. And we just scratching the surface, by the way, but they see that excellence, and they like,
It's That's crazy, bro. That's crazy because I can only imagine what it was like when y'all were there versus when I got there. And just to go back and say, make a point here, man. When we traveled to Jackson for that championship game, the pride and the pageantry and the support was beyond. I can't even explain it. Was beyond phenomenal. But man, I was sick. I'm honest enough to say I was sick, man. I was one play away from crying tears in that damn stadium, just realizing like,
Yeah.
man, we got here again, understood what it meant to be on the side of winning the championship, being on that team and having a big part in that championship team and the pride. That's when I knew as an alumni something else hit different. Cause in the game, you lose, you keep it moving. But man, to be on the verge of tears, I was like, damn, I'm
Yeah.
but I'm man enough to say that. But you got folks, and everything we do is a social media post. We can say the sky's blue, and then it'll be as Jackson State blue. And if it's
For
if
sure.
we say we got a Nobel Peace Prize winner, it's gonna be, well, we were the first ones to have a Nobel. It's like, come on, man.
Mike Dog in the building. What's up, Isaiah? I know we've been hogging the mic. You know me and Brandon, we gonna talk. What you got
That's
out
cool.
there, man? What's
It's
on your
cool.
mind,
Good
man? You
evening,
got Mike Dog in
everybody.
the building.
It's
Hey, trying to
really
stay in the shadows. Y'all just drugged me out. I want to be like G Boom and only make comments and leave.
Right.
But I just want to send a shout out to everybody. Tell you you're doing a great job, and
I appreciate it.
It's all about narrative, is what it is. They want the narrative to stay the same because you can't just blame the fans, even the SWAC. How many times do we get a decent look at players, preseason players of the year, or even a ranking higher than fourth place? I mean, I could almost bet we won the SWAC, but we won't be predicted to win again this year. We'll be second or third, something like that.
Ain't that nasty work?
It's going to be Andrew Body to the Celebration Bowl and not PV. So it's going to be interesting. And now because PV dominated and won in the West is weak. But we won more East games than the West. So the West beat the East. I mean, Grambling, who they said didn't do well, they beat Jackson State.
For sure.
So, but they don't talk about it, just like
2 years in a row.
About one of the highest watched, probably was the highest watched Celebration Bowl in history. I don't like going back and watch it. I watched the first half and then I turned it off. But
for sure.
They joke us about the 2-point loss, but everybody forgets about how they got beat down and only scored 10 points in their first trip to the Celebration.
They got the brakes beat off them. But
then they had another whole show talking about Deion lost because he was too arrogant, so the same thing gonna happen to us. But then they turned around and had another show to brag about Deion putting people in the NFL. So they got to make up their mind. Which narrative do you want? Deion did good for Jackson State, or he didn't do good for Jackson State?
You bring a good point up, Mike Dog. It's this love and hate relationship that they have with Deion, and it's the funniest thing. I like bringing it up because it's such a divide. You can see that within their fan base. It's such a divide based on them loving Deion and they hating Deion, and them being scoring lovers of Deion too, right? In the way he left. And so you got all those dynamics. And then the fact that Deion rocks with us, he came to our camp. Then he also invited our coaches out. So it's all those implications that they don't really know how to grapple. They want to take the statistics, leave the statistics, leave all the fame, and leave all the accolades. But then they really want to depart of him when it comes to the individual, but they want to have the successes to tout that and still lord that over people. So it's the funniest thing. And you bring up a great point. I'm sorry I jumped up in there so fast because I think about this all the time. If you want to see disruption in the J State place, just bring up Deion. They cannot come to a consensus on how they want to grapple and deal with Deion. And you're going to see it after this season, and I'm going to pass it to Isaiah. After this season, you're going to see mutiny in the J State realm. I'm calling it now. When, not if, when TC loses this season, you will start to see grumblings and mumblings and mutiny within the ship. And once that happens, it's a wrap. You're going to have people calling for the head of TC Taylor. You'll have 2 years now to where PV will have dominated him. And you'll have 2 years now, and they'll be like, we can't right ship. And they're going to be trying to figure out what can they do and how can they pivot and how can they move. And that'll be the first phase of really the end of that Dion era. Go ahead, Isaiah. I got a lot more on that.
Zay is the expert at this one.
No, I was gonna leave it alone tonight, man. I think I've given them enough. A few of them I'm actually cool with, and they hit me up, say, "Hey, man, you gotta chill out a little bit." But
are you doing too much?
You're doing too much, but
I'm gonna do too much for you. Don't worry, just right. I'm gonna do too much for you.
No, but no, I was actually, because I said you were about to dive into a really important topic, so I didn't want to take away from that. But I was actually going to speak to what Dr. Proctor was talking about with SWAC TV, particularly like I think we haven't even scratched the surface with what that platform can be. One big area, for example, we all know like the bands in our conference is like everything, right? And so what does it look like for that kind of content to be on SWAC TV as well? What all the viewership and views that they get on their various YouTube channels. Imagine if you have a lot of those type videos on SWAC TV, or even just a whole category. How you go on the app and they have like 2025 football, 2025 track and field. What if they had 2025 halftime shows? Right. Correct. So like that big band following for people that these kids in high school, people that's at other colleges, etc., can go and that can be their number one source for that kind of content. I think would be great for the platform as well. And obviously we could command more dollars from our corporate sponsors by saying, hey, look at how many people are coming to our app, to what we built. Right. So I just wanted to touch on that. As far as, haters. All right. And I'm not even gonna give them a name today. Because there's many people that fall in that category. I would just say, honestly, we know what we're doing at PV. We know the things that are happening under this current regime. And I think we have a ton to be excited for. And all will be revealed here soon. I mean, we're still a little bit far, but we're not too far away from August and September when the pads get to popping. And I think, this is going to be a transformative season for Prairie View. So.
For sure. And cautionary tale too. I'm always trying to better myself. Every day I do an analysis and audit, right? So I will say this part. I say this to the PV fandom. Be careful not to turn into Jay Stank. You know what I'm saying? As we win and as we succeed, as we kind of promote what we do and our successes, that's my greatest fear, is to turn into the delusional prick that's arrogant, that can't say nothing to nobody and resonate. Because the secret sauce behind PV has always been our ability to connect with other people, our ability to be social and to be intellectual, to be smart, to be witty, and to be all things. I'd say this all the time. We are the Swiss Army knife when it comes to HBCU and SWAC world. So that's my message, why we have so many people in the threads and the chat, and I can see the numbers on the platform. Let's not be them. Let's be better than them. We talk our noise, right? But there are guardrails, and there are certain levels and way in which we articulate ourselves and how we can kind of move forward and be the elder. I don't like using words like OG. OG can tell you what not to do, and elder can tell you what to do. And so we're going to be the elder statesmen that we are, and move forward with excellence as we do as productive people. That's kind of like my little small mini sermon, because you're bringing up great points. And I can feel sometimes, you know, the hesitation when we kind of have these points and we're having fun. So I will double down, Isaiah, and your message and saying let's be better than the haters. Let's not turn into our haters as we kind of now have the podium to like speak with greatness and prominence.
Yeah,
y'all got something else?
Nah, man, just say win with grace, man. Win with grace.
For sure.
And you know, keep it, you know, on the field. It's just like we give the Bees their props because they got a nice facility. We talk about our facility and certain people say, nobody want to play in that cracker box. But nobody want to play in your trip hazard. You know, when our games play, they show the beautiful campus, aerial shots of not just the stadium, but just different parts of the campus. And then when you show their place, and there's no shade on them, but it makes you want to throw shade because the only thing they show for their games is that front entrance and a far off view of the stadium. But then they talk about how terrible we are. But we, you know, Alabama A&M, we talk about how nice they are. You know, their school. You know, it's okay to give other people props, and I ain't asking them for no compliments. We know what we got, but you know, I understand what you're saying about not being a toxic fan, because I was in a chat watching a podcast about a certain school, and then I'm getting insulted about my education. I'm like, I'm a whole electrical engineer. I'm not gonna go around bragging about it. But you know, some certain person I won't mention, but Mr. Ford likes them a lot. But they, you know, came on and told me you can't speak 4 languages. Okay, so I can't. But I can, but I'm old as hell and ain't gonna learn nothing.
Hey,
but
Miss Dr. Carisha. Hey. My bad. Sorry. It's the energy drink. It's not me. It's the energy drink.
Hey, look, that California time.
The personal insults just because we're winning. You know, just win with grace, like you guys said. And with that, last thing for you, Said what you were about to talk about, the ballot box. We definitely got to get there. Don't forget the local elections too. Those people impact you directly. So, you know, just you got some runoffs coming up. You know, the Prairie View people. We got an election. You know, Donna G and Lawrence Allen, and you know, we got to make sure we get out there and participate because, you know, I don't want to see our government where they let the president operate like a king anymore. You know, the House and the Senate has just disappeared. And now we're about to get a new Fed chair that's going to ruin our lives for the next quite a few years with some of the things they're doing. You know, they're about to pass some things where your president going to put his face on the passport. Why do we need that? And then, you know, looking at taking people 401ks and throwing them off into risky assets like crypto and stuff. You do crypto with stuff you want to risk, but not with money you're trying to save for the rest of your life. So I think what you're talking about is a good thing. So when you talk about it, tell them it's important, that ballot box.
No, you just told them, man. I think that all of this is important, and it's all intersection. And I'm spitballing it, right? And I'm glad. I like when it's organic like this because it's like we're just talking, right? What people have to understand is the implications or the opportunities is really not talked about as much. You know, I get it. We want to protest. We want to boycott. That's why I was careful in how I wanted to frame the conversation. I get it. We'll let social media clips do what it does. But what's the solution? How do we win off of this situation? And I think this is a ripe opportunity for HBCUs to take advantage of the vacuum that is left by the push away, by the marginalization, right? Because we look at Reconstruction, right? We look at the most successful Black economy coming right out of slavery. When you talk about the fastest burst in education, you're talking about Reconstruction right after slavery. This isn't even really talked about in a lot of intellectual spaces. We went from a high illiteracy rate right from slavery into Reconstruction to the fastest literacy rate in the history of mankind. We're talking about almost 150% increase. You're talking about the founding and institutions of HBCUs coming right out of Reconstruction. We're talking about people denied access to reading and education and our ability to pivot within that same generational period and the rapid pace. We're talking about Black Wall Street. We kind of talk about them in vacuums, but we really don't talk about them like contextually and what it meant for how we took advantage of a disadvantaged situation. And that's really why I'm bringing those things up, not too much as to have a history lesson, but to embody the spirit of the ancestors and how they were able to embody excellence at a very high and fast rate during a high period in time of Jim Crow, civil rights, denial of education, denial of voting rights. Because remember, what Reconstruction took somewhere, what was that, 1867 somewhere. That period all the way to 1965 for the Voters' Rights Act, you're talking about a large swath in time when Black folks were even denied voting. So as we see, the second section of the Voters' Rights Act, which basically in layman terms is just telling folks, hey, you can't now sue for the fact that you were racially discriminated. You have to show intent. Initially, all you had to actually show was the fact that you were impacted racially by the Voters' Rights Act. If you were impacted racially, you can actually sue and actually challenge the law based on the fact of the impact. What merely happened where everybody keeps talking about gutting the Voter Rights Act was really them challenging and changing the Section 2, which now states we don't have to actually show that it was impact. We can still impact you racially. You have to prove intent. So this is why you have the Republican Party going back now and redlining and saying, hey, there's no intent to be racially. The impact is there, but the impact doesn't matter. It's about the intent. And how hard is it to show that they intended to be racial versus the impact in being racial? And that's really, in layman's terms, I'm no lawyer, so this is no legal advice, but as I understand it from listening to lawyers, that's merely what we're dealing with here. But the reason why I brought this up on the show is the fact that how do we take advantage of these opportunities? There's a large conversation about the SEC and boycotting the SEC and kids not going to SEC schools and being able to take away our economic dollar from the SEC and challenging them on that. Hey, we're going to take back our kids. We're going to take back the labor and the economic driver that we give to the SEC because you guys support the inability for Black folks to be able to vote. So I support Black folks being able to work and provide me money, but I do not support you to be able to have economic freedom. That's a very funny thing. Also, what's funny about that also is you want to deny DEI, but you're the biggest DEI recipient. College football is probably one of the biggest DEI recipients where you actually have Black folks working to create economic drivers in a free market space. So we love DEI when it comes to our basketball. We love DEI when it comes to our football, but we don't want DEI when it comes to fair economics, when it comes to fair political positionality. We don't want to see DEI there. This thing is, we got to get off the couch. I'm a speed through because we spent a lot of time on, the other piece, which I thought was important. But what does this really mean? I'm going to play a clip. This is what I'm going to do. Because we got even Uncle Luke chiming in here, right? We got Uncle Luke. We got Uncle Luke chiming in. So, there's some entertainment value to this because I could sit here and do a whole lecture on this, but I don't think it's important for me to lecture y'all. I think it's, we got to put the medicine in the baby flu. So what's Uncle Luke got to say about this? Hold on, let's pull him up. Share screen. Let's pull him up. 9+. Is that it right there? There we go. And let me know if y'all don't hear this. But you should.
Got his ass out of college football, running for the Senate. Fuck all the niggas.
Oh, snap.
If you don't believe me, look at some of these coaches. They all fucking support Donald Trump. They all fuck with DEI. I don't know one white coach in Power 5 football that gives a fuck.
Oh, I didn't realize it was so much cussing in that. I'm gonna pause that.
Well, I can elaborate because I'm from South Florida, so I know what he meant.
Go ahead. Let me take Uncle Luke off the screen. Uncle was on the drink. Go ahead.
Man, Aunt went on that drink. Aunt was good and sober. So we can tell pretty much where he was gonna go. Like prime example, you can look at the situation. I think it was it Mississippi State or Missouri a couple of years ago. Don't quote me on it. Where one of the players, they had the Confederate flag flying on campus or something, and a couple of the kids decided that they were going to boycott, and they made some changes, made some changes, or made them take it down, or whatever the case may be. The thing with, I hear everybody saying, and it's twofold, and I make this point to go back. Everybody is saying, hey man, we need to take back our athletes. We need to, we need to take back our athletes. They don't need to go to SEC schools and different things like that. The way this thing is set up now, it's almost impossible. The reason why I say that is because now they've taken this finances, they're going into some of these inner cities and poor communities and pluck these kids and giving them money. And now they're almost making it impossible for some of these kids to leave to go to different places. That transfer rule that came into play, this wasn't about, hey, about a kid really transferring, not being loyal to a team. This was about dollars, because they realized that this kid leaves here, I done paid him some money, he goes someplace else. Now my money, he's getting more money here, and now I'm losing out on my resource. So now it's costing me money and it's costing me championships. I think we got to do a better job at. I would sit here and lie and say I didn't want to go to a SEC school. Most football players, that's where you want to go, because you understand, like, that's the pinnacle. You're on TV. The dreams of going to the NFL, and that's fair to us. But thank God I had a parent in the household that taught me the importance of HBCUs. Growing up in Florida, I went to Florida Classic. I knew about half of my whole family went to FAMU, so I understood the importance of it. But when I think about it now as an ex-coach, and I think about it, how can you tell a kid not to go to a SEC school when they offer him $3-4 million to change the direction of his life and his family's life? I think what we need to do is we need to do a deep dive, and we need to start pouring our resources into our own so that we can create different vacuums for us to be able to take care of us, because that's not going to happen, because they made it easier. When they started paying players, they made it easier for them to be able to change the rules to do things that work out for them. Look at what happened with Dion when Travis Hunter went to Jackson State. It was an uproar.
Correct.
They were trying to do everything they could to discredit, Travis. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we have to take care of our own. And that to answer your question, what are we going to do with everything? We need to take care of our own. We need to start pumping these resources, not just athletics. We need to start pumping the resources and the money back into these programs and these universities so that we can be able to survive. Because if not, they're just creating other rules for us to be able to phase us out, and they're just gonna make it harder and harder and harder just to race us so that they can monopolize this thing.
No, for sure. And it's funny, man, when I heard that Luke clip, I didn't realize it wasn't so many cuss words when I heard it. But then when I played it on the show, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But to the point that he was trying to make, I get it. The Nick Sabans of the world, they're going to give you good information and good skill sets. And so many players go on to talk about how he made the actual building blocks for manhood for them. But I would even challenge economic, inclusion for a lot of former players, right? I would gather a lot of players that even graduated from these SEC schools go on to create business. Are you vendors, right? Are you provided opportunities with the actual institution, right? What kind of strategic partnerships do you have? a lot of that stuff we don't really think about or take in consideration when we talk about the expanded relationships that you have outside of the football field. And so I challenge that when you start talking about, and this isn't just SEC. That's just a small encapsulation, because the actual Supreme Court ruling was specifically Louisiana. Then we saw Tennessee, and then we saw Georgia. So we focused on SEC but let's be clear, this is happening across the entire country, with them now saying, you know what, we're going to go in and reshape maps. Now to Uncle Luke, and I'll get off of him, right? Now, Uncle Luke, I'm going to have to put you in the grease a little bit, right? Because we're talking about the same Uncle Luke that offered free all of his social capital to the University of Miami. Like, for a lot of people, the viability of University of Miami came through, yes, the U and what they did on the football field, but what made the U cool was Uncle Luke wearing University of Miami, putting University of Miami on his map. So, Uncle Luke, are you going to practice what you preach? Uncle Luke, are you now going to funnel relationships to FAMU? Because it's easy to talk about what's going on. Are you now going to be doing shows? It's the same green, white, and orange. The colors don't change. Uncle Luke, are you now going to these kids that he went on to talk about? The only time I can get Saveman and the only time I can get these coaches on the phone is when they want my players, because people know in Miami, Uncle Luke is really involved with high school kids, right? Are you now going to stop pushing?
He's big. He's big in the community. And one thing I can definitely say, down in Miami area, he is big in the community. He's coached and he's done some things. I've heard him talk about FAMU sometimes here and there, but not as much as to University of Miami, because that's where he built his reputation on.
For sure.
U. But you got to think about that dynamics of the U too. A lot of those kids right there at home, right there in the city, Florida is a gold mine, and those kids were getting paid. Those kids had access to money. Those kids had access to a lot of different things. You can look at the 30 for 30, and they pretty much tell you without telling you what the situation is. But economically, it worked for them, because those kids are coming out of that city with not having anything. Now, they've given the world to be able to, to live out their dreams. So of course, with him being where he is and who he is, it just kind of added more to it. And I think it, like you said, the biggest thing, I think, and I just think about you saying the ballot box, like, it's nothing wrong with people wanting to be entertained. It's nothing wrong with us going out to support our artists and going out to support these different people, but we got to get our priorities in order, because they're slowly ripping the carpet from up under us. And if we're not careful, the very freedoms that we have now, we won't have. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm finna go spend $1,000 on the Chris Brown and Usher concert and stand in line for some damn tennis shoes, versus but too damn lazy to stand in line to vote, that's got your life and your mama life and your kids life, pretty much in the hands of you making a decision. Like, I see it every day. I'm a police officer, and I'm out 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's a line wrapped around the mall for some damn Jordans that done came out 11 times just in a different color. So we got to change our mindset. If we're going to stand outside for some shoes, let's stand outside with the right to vote. That's going to allow us to be able to have the financial freedom that we need to be able to take care of ourselves. But if we don't, we're going to be in trouble.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I think with Brandon, what he stated is that absolutely on point, because what happens is we don't associate our voting right and who we vote for with the we don't associate that with our community and definitely not our universities, right? For example, Prairie A&M University, we have lobbyists at the state capitol that we talk to make sure that we get the funds that we need to support the university. And so when we're voting as alums of the university throughout the state of Texas, that's not a part of the conversation. So we don't associate our votes with who's going to help Prairie View. Maybe at the local level, when we talk about voting for our school board members, that come into place, but not really above that level. So there has to be better voter education, and there has to be a better understanding of how that vote has a direct impact on the institutions that support us most. And so the weaker that relationship is, the weaker support that we'll get at our institutions and in our communities. You're seeing a huge problem in the state of Louisiana, where Southern and Grambling is absolutely being choked out because there's such a huge disconnect in the fact that they don't have proper representation at the state level to make sure that those universities receive the funding that they need to support the school. So I just wanted to speak on that because Brandon is absolutely right. It's about the vote, and it's about the representation, and it's about connecting those dots.
That kind of, and thanks for that ad. That takes me to my next piece that I want to talk about. All right, after we vote and we get to some of these solutions, this is the ugly truth part, right? We gotta be ready for the opportunity as it presents itself. Now, this is to the entire SWAC. I'm taking my PV hat off for 1 second, and I'm putting my SWAC hat on. We got to be ready to be able to take on these challenges. We got to be able to understand that we got an influx of students now that are going to be coming. Are we prepared for now? Because it's easy to say boycott and don't go to these SEC schools, but do we have our proverbial ish together, right? And so I'm sorry. We as a family at HBCUs, we got to get our stuff together, because we're going to miss the opportunity because we're so busy stuck in antiquated systems. We got funny business going on with the money. I don't think that it's a coincidence that we're seeing so much publicity around, the statuses of compliance when it comes to these athletic programs. We got to stop this ahead of it, right? I don't think that's by coincidence. I also don't think that's by coincidence that we have another university that's come up that's been in the news recently about mismanagement of budgeted funds, about a revenue coming in versus the actual deficit that they had, right? I won't go into that because that's not the purpose of me bringing it up. I'm saying that we're already seeing an offense, right? Not only are they gerrymandering our vote, but there's an all-out attack on HBCU's viability. And we got to understand that some of this stuff is self-inflicted. I talk about this a lot in my sales meetings, right? Control what you can control. We understand what they're going to be doing in Capitol Hill. We understand what they're going to be doing when they actually shift and shape up laws. We understand how they're going to play gerrymandering as a play on us, right? But then we got to run the money right. We got to have the audits and the books ran right. We got to be able to run funds and be able to show receipts and be viable as institutions to be able to take advantage of these operations. Otherwise, it's all for naught. And so that's kind of my call to arms for a lot of these HBCUs as we kind of, deal with this problem. But what kind of solutions are we offering as we kind of run a multiple head monster? We can deal with the problems, and we can deal with boycotting. That's fine. I'm not a personal fan personally of the whole boycott. I know that economic withdrawal has always been a political strategy. I'm more for economic realignment. How do we realign ourselves economically to take advantage of disadvantaged situations? And I think that's the new age version of how we deal with pushing back on these systems. No more, we're just going to withdraw and then re-engage. Withdraw and then re-engage. We're going to go withdraw and we're going to go and build a system over here. We're not even trying to re-engage. And I think that's one of the, without getting too much on our soapbox, that was one of the mistakes, I would say, that we played in the civil rights era. We protested the bus boycott, but we should have protested and went and did our own bus systems and develop our own transportation systems, because we had transportation systems that were available at that time. Some of the first multi-million-dollar, I forgot the brother's name who had the bus company that was going. So again, economic withdrawal is cool, but have an economic realignment and start building systems in place to take advantage of those pushaways instead of like re-engaging back again. So that's one of the things. I'm gonna run through this quickly. I had so many notes on this, and I'm glad this all came out kind of organic. I want to touch on something else because I like the art, the pivots of the conversation, serious and kind of, you know, laughter a little bit. We got Ryan Clark on this tip too, and I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Ryan Clark. I think partially because of information that I know about him personally, and I think partially in the ways in which athletes represent themselves in media spaces. We're out of it now. I think Stephen A will be the last of a dying breed. It's a genie that's out the bottle. Athletes are now going to be the voice of Black folks when it comes to like media spaces. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are now. So I want to put up Ryan Clark. This wasn't actually an actual video, but it was a meme that was going around, right? Look, I'm reading a quote for y'all that's maybe not only listening and not seeing, so I'm gonna read it out for y'all. So it was a meme going around with Ryan Clark here, and it's got all of the SEC schools highlighted by state. Look, I'm gonna be real with you. Black college athletes need to stop signing with schools and states that gerrymander districts to block Black representation. And it's got a picture of Ryan Clark. This meme was floating out there pretty heavy. This meme was coming out there really hot and really heavy. What we come to find out is Ryan Clark issued a statement and said, I didn't even say these things. You don't have any video. You don't have any reference to me actually making these statements. Now, I thought that the interesting part of this isn't so as much him not making the statements, but him having to divest himself from said statement. And how I have the actual image of his actual statements in reply to that. Right now, interesting. Now here's Ryan Clark posting a reply about that said post. Always weird to have to say this. I have made no statement about where college athletes should or shouldn't play. The quote and graphic using my face and name is fake. It's a lie. I post enough stuff on social media. If it's not on my profile, I didn't say it. Lots of cameras around me. There will be a video, right? That's Ryan Clark's take on the last meme that we saw that was floating out there. Now, my issue to Ryan Clark is he didn't even challenge the actual substance of the actual text in the meme in and of itself. His positionality was to just say he didn't say it. This shows, in my opinion, the flaw in Ryan Clark. He didn't necessarily have to say it, but it was more impactful for him to have to come out and say he didn't say it more than him saying it. Now, maybe there's a crisis manager that told him this is the best way to go about this. I don't know if this is the best way to go about this. Maybe he had to clean up sponsorship and relationships. You know, obviously he is on a major network. I think that's an in-house conversation. People make memes all the time. But the fact that he came out to speak on a meme that he didn't say something when it was actually talking about empowerment of Black folks, I think says a lot about Ryan Clark. And actually had me confirm the negative positionality that I see him in. The fact that he made this statement. We got Mr. Campbell in the chat, right? Of course not, because he actually works as an ambassador for LSU, and he has had his DB position on LSU campus, or precision on LSU campus. He's not going to talk about his school. No, I get that.
Well, in my opinion, this is pollution in the situation, right? it goes back to what you said at first. We have athletes that are discussing political situations, and this is a political topic, not a sports topic, right? There's a blur of line of what this really is, and as a community, we have to get out of the business of not relying on our specialists to talk about specific issues in their field of study, in their field of expertise. So, having Ryan Clark or Stephen A. Smith talk about anything outside of football, right, or sports is bad business. We have enough political scientists, we have enough political specialists, we have enough political experts to say, how should we address and attack this situation, right? As a political attack on our community, and then approach it from that perspective, as opposed to trying to use this political situation and use it in the sports arena. Like, we're the only people that do that. Like, it's crazy how we are the only ones that do that. You never hear other communities relying on athletes or entertainers to talk about business or politics or education, but we use our athletes and entertainers to talk about those things. It's asinine. I never listen to a Ron Clark or a Stephen A. Smith when I'm trying to figure out something regarding a specialty situation, whether it's education or banking or politics or any of that. We're the only community that will do that. Listen to someone that has no expertise in a specific field and get their advice. So
you're right.
The lesson in this is we need to stop that, right? Whether Ryan Clark said it or not, it doesn't matter. His perspective doesn't matter because he's not a political science expert. This is not in his lane. If we were talking about DBs, then I'd listen to Ryan Clark, right? If we're talking about the Steelers or LSU football, then I'd listen to him. But not in this arena, no.
Yeah, this reminds me, it's shades of Malcolm X, right? Malcolm already predicted this. He said, only in our community will we have entertainers. Now, he went on to say actors, comedians, because he had Dick Gregory and all of those guys at the time chiming in. But Malcolm already talked about this. We're in that age where he already predicted and talked about, we're not going to have intellectuals speak for us. We're going to have the athletes and the entertainers, the Jay-Z's of the world impacting us. He don't do a lot of talking, but he definitely do a lot of action, right? We had him come in to douse cold water on the whole Kaepernick issue. It is what it is. And we see it across the board. Go ahead.
Right. And we have to be mindful how the media props these people in the space so that they are who we are listening to, right? We have to say and reject that notion that because we see this person most often, then they can be the expert in speaking about it, because that's part of the media game and the game that we get caught in. We have to look away from that and be smart enough to know that that's the game that's being played on us.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that these athletes are already compromised. Much like our social activists in the past were compromised and had back deals and put back black folks in bad situations. These athletes and entertainers are already compromised, whether it be for misdeeds that they might have done, whether it might be a bag that's in it for them in the background, or might be even in some instances getting out of trouble and getting cleaned up for things that they have done. Right.
I think you're absolutely right, but I'll take it as simple as this: they were compromised when they took the athletic scholarship as freshmen at these major institutions. A lot of times, so they have a pseudo affiliation with these universities and feel the need to protect them because of what they may feel that the university did did for them, but in reality, they were a bigger asset to the university than they can ever imagine.
No, for sure, for sure. And so this is where I wanted to go through all the arcs of this, right? And I do want to offer, because a lot of this isn't Debbie Downer. If you noticed how I've been framing this, my position has always been, what's the opportunity in this, and where the gap. This is almost like the stock market for me. There's a large part of people that's pants are on fire because the market is crashing, but then there's a lot of people playing the dip, and then there's a lot of people playing when the market's going to come back up. And so that's where I would like HBCUs to kind of think on a macro level when it comes to this. Yes, am I upset? Yes, do I want to speak up and speak out? Should I march and should I protest and all of those good things? I'm not here to challenge those things, but I think we have to build on them and have a more expansive approach and how we deal with like revolution in this digital and economic space that we live in, right? And I think that's the broader conversation that we got to have. So when we talk about this gerrymandering that's going on, I don't even believe it's going to even work. So should we address it because it's now dismantling a lot of the work that the ancestors have done? But you have to understand that, one, we've seen this already play out in Texas. It has backfired. We've already seen the pre-workings of this with Texas. We've also seen in Tennessee, right? Them trying to remove the one Democratic rep that they have out there. But more important in DeSantis area in Florida, I'm sure Mr. Campbell, who's been commenting, will kind of understand and echo this. We've already seen shifts in Florida who's also tried to play this gerrymandering scenario, right? And it's not working and it's failing, right? Because in order for gerrymandering to work, you have to have your actual territory already dominated. You've already got to have some type of advantage or a large advantage. The gerrymandering is just to expand the actual territories that you already exist and have. You see the Republicans not even being able to hold the spaces in which they already have. So the gerrymandering is in work because their actual margins that they actually have in already existing Republican spaces is already dwindling. This is why you even have in Miami, they've elected their first Democratic mayor in over 30 years.
Right.
So the gerrymandering isn't going to work, right? We've even seen in Mar-a-Lago district, a Democratic candidate, it controls the Mar-a-Lago district, right? So we're already seeing signs. You can redline this thing all you want, but Republicans aren't even voting Republican. And so
but that's what makes me nervous, Said, that the Republicans might flip over the chessboard and make this war escalate so it don't be a midterm.
Yeah, sure. Look, at some point,
I think it's twofold, Sid. I think that there are two things happening at once. I think you're absolutely right. It's not an exact science that when they redraw the lines that the voting numbers are going to fall as they think that they are. I think that it's even happened here in Texas. Pearland just voted in its first black mayor, and for those who are familiar with the suburb just south of Houston, it's a predominantly white or historically white community, and now it has a black mayor, right? So even close to home, we're seeing that. But I think that the other side of it is that they are testing the political system, right? They are stressing the system and seeing how fluid it could be. These types of things have not happened in decades. And so now they're just testing it to see, can we move this here? What can we get away with in a whim? How can these votes, how can we change the dynamics of the voting process? And I think they're looking to fatigue the system for a greater move. So I think that it's multifaceted.
No, for sure. And I do, and now on this note, right, there have already been analysts break down, okay, cool, you gerrymander, I gerrymander. You gerrymander, I gerrymander. Oh, we split this, we split that, right? It's still a L for Republicans when you actually run the numbers across the country, even if you go through these kind of extreme gerrymandering scenarios, even with red and even blue. You've seen already in California and actual states. Okay, cool. We're gonna play your game at the same level that you play it and beat you at it, right? Once all the smoke clears on that, you will see that they will even still lose in that scenario. And I think this will get us back to the table to really kind of now reshape and recraft. Because remember, the Democrats wanted to put away with this gerrymandering thing and put that forth, and they actually said no. The Republicans actually said no. So I think this gets us back to the table. This gets us now to re-engage and get things back in order. Because what always happens after a great economic failure by Republicans, Democrats have to come along and clean up the process. This is just the cyclical thing that happens in politics every single time. And I think more importantly, as much as they fear the changeover in power, there are going to be a lot of people go to jail over this. There are going to be a lot of people get sued over this. Once we get back control of the Justice Department and really look at some of the extreme aspects that have happened to this country at the hands of political officials, that retribution is coming. And I think that's what they also fear that we're not really talking about. What is, first thing first, right? I call this part first things first. First things first is we got to vote, man.
Yeah.
Black folks, we got to vote, because we can cry about the Voters' Rights Act, but it don't mean a hill of beans if we don't go out and vote. You got effectively 40 million black folks. Do you know that 30 million are of the age of voting? Out of the 40 million black folks, 30 million are of voting age. 20 million are registered to vote. That's simple fact. That's simple math. Even Mr. Campbell can probably do that math, right? We're not talking about physics and algebra, right? So this won't go over your head. I think that good public education over at FAMU, you can figure that math, right? Only 10. Now, Zoe might not get this because I don't know what they teach over there at JSU. So he maybe can share his work with them. Only 10 million people. We have a surplus of 10 million people that are not registered to vote. I'm going to run it back because I put a lot of comedy and jokes in there. 40 million black people in the United States. 30 million are of voting age. 20 million are registered to vote. That means you got 10 million black folks that are not even registered to vote. 10 million black folks. That's a lot of social activism and political activism that's left on the tree. We're not even talking about how many of those 20 million are even going out to vote. We're just going to say 20 million are registered to vote. We got 10 million people still on the couch. 10 million people, black folks, that's sitting on the couch that haven't even registered to vote. I have been annoyed by this kind of nauseum of registering to vote. I've been thinking it's just something that's just, okay. People do that because it's like almost like giving out turkeys for Thanksgiving. Like, is it really impacting people, or it just kind of makes us feel good? This has really, now look at the numbers of this. This really tells us the tale that we really got to get people out and engage them to vote. We got to register first. And I dip into a lot of different intellectual spaces. Black men, y'all got to knock it off, right? This kind of like war that we have on women right now, we ain't got time for that. We don't have time for the gender war right now. Turn Kevin Samuels off, right? Turn, all the toxic masculinity podcast bros, fresh and fit. Turn that off, right? We gotta get back in our rightful place. And we can't do that being toxic towards black women, especially seeing how they're performing in political spaces, in professional spaces, in education spaces, in home ownership, in fastest millionaire class, right? We don't have time to be on the other side of black women in this scenario, right? So this whole, well, 87% of us, we voted for Kamala. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. We did. You was on the couch talking about your vote don't count. You was on the couch talking about the Democrats don't do nothing for me just as much as the Republicans don't do nothing for me. This is where we are right now, right? This is to all y'all that did not vote, but want to hide behind the statistic. Well, 87% of us black men supported Kamala. And, this when I started getting into my engineering phase. What was the cumulative number? 80% of the voting block. By how many tangible people amongst that $20 million registered, $20 million number, cumulative number, how many of those people actually went out to vote? Because 80% doesn't tell you the actual quantifiable number. A lot of y'all, a lot of us, I'm not going to other myself, a lot of us did not vote. We got to register to vote, and we got to go out and vote.
Yeah.
Stop saying that. Stop saying these like toxic points. I'm going to hold my vote back. And to shorten the show, and I might bring it back on part 2. I might part 2 this next week, because you got people like Stephen A. Smith out here talking about, hey man, I wish that we all voted. If every black person voted Republican, I wish we had one election. Like, what in the tomfoolery are you talking about? We cannot reward ignorance. We cannot reward failure. And I question how we deal with problem solving. Is the way in which you deal with problem solving with the Democratic Party? I'm going to be the kid at the park to take my ball and run. I can't play, so I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to run. I'm going to take my ball and lead the court, and I'm going to I want to mess the whole game up. I know I can't play. I haven't developed the skills to get on the court. I know my game sucks, but I know I got the basketball. And for a lot of people, especially black men, all they see is chaos and disruption as their form of masculinity and disruption. We got to knock it off, man. We got to get more serious about how we see politics, and we got to get more serious on how we see leadership and taking over our community. What's your thoughts on that? I know I've said a mouthful. What are y'all still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. I don't think getting people to vote is as cut and dry. There are a lot of layers to it. There are a lot of people in the community that are in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, it's hard to think voting is going to be the answer, right? When you're in a situation where you're disenfranchised and you think that voting really isn't a helpful thing or a tool that's going to be worth anything or a change agent in your community, then you don't vote. So I think it's, those are like probably the main two things that impact our voting numbers. And so it's very difficult. And there are no easy answers to getting those two monsters under control, because the system is so layered when it comes to survival skills, and poverty is growing. The amount of people that we have in our community that are considered to be at the poverty level is multiplying every day. And so voting is not at the top of their priority list. So when you talk about increasing the amount of voters, then we also have to talk about how can we, engage the disenfranchised, and how can we kind of get the attention of those who are in survival mode to get them to vote. So
now, Doc, how do you suggest getting to that?
One quick second, Mike Dog. I dropped the link. I'm gonna throw it right back to you. I dropped the link for you at EA. Hopefully you're not a a troll. I hope that's a real person because I don't know who would name themselves EA D5D. So you might be a bot. But I welcome you to the conversation and the dialogue. If you need help being explain, I put it up for you. What's toxic masculinity? We can break that thing down, and I can fully articulate it to it. Because like I said, I wanted the space to be a think space or incubator space. So a lot of these stuff we haven't grappled with when it comes to Black male studies. We don't have much scholarship on Black male studies. So I would love to like have that conversation and dialogue if you could. You don't have to get on camera or anything. You can talk like the brothers are talking in the background. But my bad, Mike Dog, and we got Mr. Campbell on here. So what's up, Mr. Campbell? But I could
go ahead,
Mike
Mr.
Dog.
Campbell. He hasn't been on yet. Go ahead.
No, man, listen, I'm gonna say this, man, and I'm super serious about this. Voting, registration, civil rights, that's in my DNA. Start register people both since I was 18. I'm so proud. And I don't know who the brother was that was speaking. So spot on about the challenges of voter registration. Said, I'm gonna say, we joke and we joke around because we family, man. I'm so proud that you said certain things. The toxic max, that's a real thing. The Stephen A. Smith Coonan, that's a real thing because that's being bought and paid for. When you're out here as somebody like me that's out here registering the people to vote, the first thing you always, especially with Black, see, you have two groups of Black people, right? You have Black people, well, actually it's a third, but I'll just break it down like this. You have a group that's informed. That's about 20%, right? They really know what's going on. They actually know the process of voting, right?
Right.
Then you got 40% of the people that want to vote but don't know anything, right? All they know is just, we supposed to vote this Tuesday. Then you got this other 40%, like my man said, they're disenfranchised. They believe what they see because nobody reads news. What they see on YouTube, what they see on TikTok, what they see on Instagram. Now, mind you, they know that 40%. They're programmed. So this negative stuff, that's their whole feed. I won't use any names or different subgroups, but it's negativity, right? Well, I'm not voting because they don't support me because they support this group or that group and all that. And they're targeted. So what they do is, that's the voter suppression part in technology age right now, right? So now what do we do in the political part? The voter suppression. We close the ballot boxes that they do in Alabama, the mail-in ballots. We make sure that you have to have a license, but we make sure that the driver's license plates are not near your house. We start doing things to start minimizing your vote. And now the last thing, because of the Supreme Court, now we're going to rewrite the district, not for you to, see, I think what people miss, it is not for you to vote somebody Black in, it's for Black representation, period. You can vote whoever you want, but to have a voice in the political sphere. So now when I go out here and try to get people to register to vote, I have to figure out which class they're in, right? So that class, that 10 million that you're talking about, said, that ain't right, that's that 40%.
Yeah,
that is the hardest group. And the only time that group, and I teased my mother, I called them the unknowns. You know, the only time the unknowns came and voted one time is that's for Barack Obama, his first time.
Barack Obama, yeah.
His first time. They did. But after that, and then what did the states do? Because they saw they didn't vote anymore, then guess what we had now? We had these voter roll purges. Man, I ain't going to vote. I'm going, because they don't do anything for me. So then what I ask people, the question is, tell me what you believe in. And I'll just make something simple. Again, you believe in affirmative action, right? You believe in certain things. Yes, yes, yes. This other group doesn't believe in it. So who would you vote for? I'm not going to say, just forget parties for a second. Just principles, right? Well, I vote for that. Well, this is why you might need to vote this way. Because that other group is not agreeing with anything you just said. So then what they'll do is, especially the unknowns, they'll say, well, this 10% thing, they support this group. And I just won't say no name of the group. We'll just call it a group, right? But then you know what I say? Okay, that's 10%. Then I name the other 10 things. Gas is up. Your rent is up. You can't say Black in the state of Florida. All these different things, right? Do you agree with that? Well, yeah. So why would you let 10% sway to 90%? See, Black people can't be one-issue voters. See, white evangelicals, because white people vote against their own interests all the time, right? They say it.
Yeah.
See, white people can have the ability to vote against their own interests because they can be single-minded voters. Black people can't. We can't just say we don't like one thing.
They understand how, white privilege and white supremacy works.
100%.
They understand that. We're the ones that think that it's a tooth fairy, that it's some kind of like some phantom that doesn't really exist. So they understand, even if it's against my personal interest, it's in my whole interest, because I understand the dynamics of how white power dynamics work. And Black folks, we're still kind of late Larry on that. We still think on racism as in you can't drink at this water fountain. We still think at, being called the N-word. We still look at racism. We don't understand institutional racism. We don't understand systemic racism, right? We don't understand the depths of how like racism is played out today, which is why we disengage and don't really understand how to play on the field and understand all the chess pieces that's on the board. We're proverbially playing checkers when this system is playing chess with us. And real quick to the EA, we got a problem as Black men with accountability. You know what I'm saying? He's saying, hell no, I ain't no bout for you to sit up here and say Black men instead of saying some Black men is asinine. Watch how you speak to grouping all Black men. 100% rattler. So thank you for letting us know you're a rattler. It's already implied that nothing is totally all. So we don't have to say some Black men when we're actually talking about points, because nothing is a monolith. So it's already implied and baked in. Like, get the meat from the bones, right? I said we. I'm out there voting, but I understand it is we because I'm part of the Black male demographic. Whether if I'm doing it or not isn't as much as the point that I'm making, because we're still grouped as a block. We don't get to be individuals in a system that already has us blocked together. And that's the problem, and why I actually center Black men, because my position is that we are the leaders. So we take accountability first. We understand how we actually make change first as a group. That might be hard for you. And also, you seem to be triggered to the fact that I centered Black men, but that's right at the core of the problem. The emotionality for a lot of us, right? This had nothing to do with you challenging the point that I make. It had to do with your feelings. Stop. Don't group all Black men up in there together because my feelings is hurt. Like, this world doesn't care about your feelings. This world is going to have us blocked up, whether if you got money or you don't. You educated or not. You went to jail or not. That's the only good thing about this oppression wave that's coming on. It's going to wake some of y'all up, because some of y'all have been disillusioned in understanding the dynamics that are being played on us as a collective community and as an individual community. And when I mean individual, I'm talking about us as Black men. Yeah, we got to stop it with this, like this slow talk. If it's nothing else that drives me crazy is this kind of weak, emotional, manosphere, red pill world that we seem to be kind of wallowing in as Black men. That used to be, other men's of other communities. Great. Now Black men want to be dysfunctional like other men from other communities. And we used to take pride in manhood. I don't want to get on my soapbox, but when you start talking about cultural stuff, it's kind of when I kind of see red. Yeah. Did y'all have something else?
Well, my thing is, Mr. Campbell read my mind, because the apathy in the community too is concerning, because I have a friend that's a director at a Head Start, and 90% of those parents don't even work. And they printed letters. They didn't tell them who to vote for, but they told them to participate. And the parents laughed about it, dropped the kids off, kept it pushing, and they had no rush to get anywhere because they weren't even working. And then when the Head Start had to close a few days because the new administration was like, I don't think we want to give you any money. Now the parents are mad, but we got to have the foresight to see that coming. And sometimes when you have a population that can't see it, I guess we need better ways of telling them, hey, this is going to really actually affect you. And I don't know how you get through to them because they'd rather do something that not making them money, not even adding value to their life. And when they could have took a few minutes, voting is free right now. There's no telling what they'll change later on. It's free right now. That's something you could have did on the way. And early voting, got to push that.
Mr. Mickens, can I make a point? Can I make a point on that? And this goes back to what you said. You hear people that say, "Why should I vote?" And this is another thing. Well, you know what? And I go, and again, I always take, because what people try to do, especially now, they've tried to twist things around about parties. I talk about principles. Okay. Do you believe that Head Start is a good thing? Yes, I do. Who supports Head Start? Make it simple, because what people I have found when you see this, and this kind of goes back, and I understand EA's point of people getting upset, but you said it perfectly. The programming, see what happens is, and I'll give you an example. You'll see a Charleston White, right? You'll see this woman, Dr. Cheyenne Bryan, who don't have a doctorate. When we got people, my cousin has a doctor. I talked to him today. It's disrespectful for her to run around. We have the wrong people who have the mic in our community. That's the bigger problem. And this is part of, again, and this goes all the way up to Stephen A. Smith. Understand, this is all calculated. There's a reason why you see these people. Now, Sed is talking right here, I'm telling you right now, the algorithm will not make sure anybody else will see this. But I tell you what, I can send Sed a link right now. And you know what I saw on this? And she only had 4. And I'm like, how did my boy get this? 400 subscribers. And you know what the topic was? Black male Democrats are feminine. Where do you think that came from? So 400 subscribers, and he gets us on his own. Now, he ain't nobody that looks at nothing crazy. He looks at straight up. So this one try. This is targeting. So we have to understand and be what this game is now. So when Sed says something like that, that's going to get muted. This person that we ain't going to never see her face, or if you ever see these quotes and stuff like that, you see it all the time. Go look and see who this person is. Why did this person get amplified? And I'll make one quick point, Sed, because I know you got to go. I know you all saw this on social media. Some girl from India, I would never go to an HBCU, right? That was all over. Why did that get amplified? Who is this person? Understand that was amplified on purpose. So we got to understand what this war we're fighting technology-wise. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg is a supporter of Donald Trump. You don't think that he knows, everybody knows the most dangerous and powerful voting bloc are HBCU alums. Because you know what? Because we're educated and we got money. Who you want to put more in disarray? So guess what you do? You put this up. So I just want to say that really quickly to Mr. Mickens' point is that every time you have a group like that, the way you challenge them is because something's getting taken away from them first. And that's why you have to show why they have skin in the game of voting. So again, like I said, I don't want to think, but Sed, appreciate you. I'll stay on, but I appreciate you having this conversation.
Campbell, I have to say this. I have to say this real quick, Sed. To Campbell's point when he talks about the fact that HBCU graduates are a targeted audience because not only are we socially and politically conscious, but we also have the discretionary funds to support political parties and to spend money and so on and so forth. We are a powerful group of people. So like he said, it's intentional when they amplify a video that says that someone is not going to support an HBCU. As a business owner, I would run, and I still run, ads on social media, specifically Instagram and Facebook. And in 2020, before George Floyd, you would be able to, and even 2021, you would be able to run an ad, and you could be able to target HBCU alums, right? I can simply say, I have a product that I want to sell, and I want to target Prairie View A&M University graduates. I'll just put PV in the target, in the interest box. And so anybody that mentioned anything about Prairie View, anybody that went to Prairie View, anybody that's going to Prairie View, this particular ad would show up on their page. Well, after the George Floyd situation and some political success that we had in the community, specifically when Abrams won her governorship and we had a lot of black judges win their elections, Meta intentionally removed all HBCUs as an interest. So you can no longer go on to Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and specifically target uh, people that are interested in those specific HBCUs. Now, you can still do it for PWIs. I can put in, University of Houston. I could put in St. Thomas University. I could put in TCU, and I can directly target those people, but I cannot do that for HBCUs. And I think that was a means to suppress our connectivity. It was a means to suppress our ability to, for political, business-wise, all of those aspirations that we may need to target HBCU alums and graduates have been removed by Facebook. So Brother Coleman is absolutely right that Zuckerberg it's all intentional, and we have to be mindful of that. So anybody that don't believe me, go ahead and run you a Facebook ad and try to put Prairie View or FAMU or Jackson State in as an interest group, and it won't come up. But as soon as you type Mississippi State or St. Thomas or Florida International, those universities will come up instantly. That's all I have to say about that.
That's that right there, I don't think I've heard that anywhere, man.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that anywhere. That's a very good point. That loops around and kind of encapsulates in like real time what he was making about Meta. It took the emotion out of everything and it made it more practical. And I think these are the conversations we got to have and how we're disadvantaged outside of the emotional aspect. We get that. But once we get our emotions in check and we kind of think about problem solving through a more logical and a more practical way, I think we can kind of get to some of the solutions. My fear is that a lot of us, and maybe because we're older, we have that accountability, but I'm not going to be ageist. But man, some of these young brothers, they can't get around their emotions. And so I think that they're already disadvantaged because they haven't even mastered themselves yet. And if you can't master your emotions, you not even really equipped to deal with what's getting ready to come on with an onslaught, because they're banking on you being emotional. They're banking on you not having stoicism, right? Those are some of the like key things that we had with black men in the past. Our gauge and our presence without even having to open our mouth, our ability to like shapeshift and our ability to kind of resonate without having to consort to like wild emotions. Hopefully we can, pass this on to the next generation. I thank y'all for the conversation, and I thank y'all for value add in this dialogue. It started off one way, and I love when it gets organic and we just kind of have a natural build, because I think it comes off more authentic when we do it this way instead of like this kind of scripted thing. We got to have sometimes some bullet points that we want to come across. But I think that when you guys just organically, I didn't ask anybody to come on the show today. Everybody just naturally came on their own. And I think everybody brought something valuable to the conversation and to the dialogue. And so I thank all of y'all for what y'all brought to the conversation and to this show. It's still a young show. I just hit double digits in shows. I think this is the 10th show that I've had. So I look to reshaping and testing certain things to see what works and don't work and what drives the numbers and what doesn't, as we take this journey, together. So my last topic, I always like to end on a high note. I wanted to give a shout out to, two PV alum, two farmers make history and open Houston's newest Black-owned farmer-operated grocery store. And then this kind of goes into a good segue into what we're talking about. And I want to feature more of these things, in these conversations. Two PV alum doing their thing, opened up a Black farmer. We talk about food desert. Again, I was talking about the different ways in which we are marginalized as people. Our access to food and just proper good. Y'all can't live off Takis out there. Y'all can't, live off soda and Snickers bars and whatever, else these wild foods y'all eating. But shout out to two PV ag science majors who've taken their degree, taken their experience, understanding farming, but coming back into the community to open up a grocery store that's centered around, Fresh House Grocery is, I believe, the name of it. The Ivy Walls and Jeremy Peaches, they both come together to open up this Black-owned farmers operated grocery store right in the middle of Sunnyside. Again, it's called Fresh House. Y'all check them out. The address is 9441 Cullen Boulevard. I'm not sure they operating hours. You can look it up. But when I saw this posted in my Facebook kind of timeline, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. Well, I had a brief write-up. What these farmers has built is more than just a grocery store. It's a blueprint for fighting food deserts and building generational wealth at the same time. When the people who grow your food also own the store in your neighborhood, that's not just business, that's legacy. Houston just got a masterclass in what community ownership looks like when it comes to rooted in purpose and an impact already spreading beyond the produce aisles. I love it, man. Black-owned grocery store right there in Sunnyside. Fresh House. Go support them. Y'all got any last words before I shut it down?
You did a good job, Sed. Good show tonight.
Nah, I appreciate it. Mr. Campbell and Dr. Proctor have already left. Well, y'all know how I always end the show with the same line. Stay strong, stay true, but most of all, stay productive. Because PV produces what? Productive people. Shout out to Magical Soul Brothers. Everyone keeps been asking me, what's the song? It's called On My Mind by the Magical Soul Brothers. Look to them. They might have this out. I think they're working to get this out on Spotify. Also, a PV alumni music group. Magical Soul Brothers, On My Mind. Shout out to y'all. See y'all next week. 7 p.m. Central Time, Productive People, here on PV versus Everybody.
Do you remember when we first met? Well, I don't, but I remember how wet you get. But I won't disrespect you by dwelling on the physical aspect. Don't roll your eyes, cause we better than that shit. I'm talking about long life, being your boy's wife. A couple youngins running in the backyard. And my lord, you're still looking great, honey. And my God, you still can shake what make money. It's so vivid, can you picture it? Yeah, well tell me, do you think this ring fits? Word, your love is like the ultimate herb. You got me foot to the ass and the rest of the curb. It's like nothing to do, only for you I kneel and forget the brick. Love is the house we're building, the picket fence with the swing on the tree with the words carved in it saying love is we. There you are, close enough to touch but still too far, because you're not mine yet. Stimulated by the conversation, mere presence. Other women ask what relation, none of the essence. Oh, who's that? She's a C, but you come first, like the A before the B. When you're gone, I wilt like a willow, lie there and smell the scent you left on my pillow. A strong mind with the body to match. I won't bite if you promise not to scratch. You keep it real, just like the truth. Closer than twins, standing in the phone booth. Inspirational, treasured like a gift. What's success without someone to share it with? I used to be a dog, now a cool cat chasing cheese. And I blame Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise on my mind. Eloise. Eloise on my mind. Eloise.
People everywhere wants to know her name. Her body is the essence and her claim to fame. She's got game, it ain't the same. She's got plenty, packing more good times that you might call a penny. Getting caught up with the thoughts of flying overseas, making all of the cheese, spending time with Eloise. I picture hitting from the back like the snare from the track. I got the knack to be the Mac lips I wanna smack. Candle wax down the spine all of the time. Prophylactic on my tool, let me take you to school. Lesson 1, you don't have to run. And lesson 2, Listen to my crew. Passion increases with exchange of saliva. Keep it Fahrenheit and call me Muffdava. That be me, the K to the ING. My mode is excellent and my dream is Eloise.
A soft whisper. She asked me, do I have the guts to kiss her? But as I sit and wonder, is she real? I picture. So what comes after? Put on Anita's rapture. Her feelings I must capture. Her soft lips. I take them quick and put them in my pocket. Cause they're out of this world like Space Lee and his sprockets. Somebody pitch me quick, I think I'm dreaming. Damn, she got me fiending. Her skin is so soft. It reminds me of the smoothest piece of silk. She's so sweet, her breath smells like carnation milk.
So sweet. Carnation milk. Of all things, I'm your lady. Sweet baby. Hey, what up, boo? Words out, I'm the diva that you speak about. I hear you smitten about my well-written repertoire. You's a superstar, but it's you that I shine for. We go together like jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers. Player haters try to come between us, but never that. E is simply all of that. Rewind that. E is simply all of that. Hoes be jealous, so they fellas wanna frolic. Gems I spit can't be bought, sold, or boarded. You look retarded, trying to go against the gift. Love is shared, the love is multiplied. Put your freaks aside, forget about your weak pride. Run away with me and let's do it on the wild side.